public-private sector, that figure is ranging between 30 to 40%, right?
I think it's clear that the government of Kenya is living beyond its means.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Baba should disown these experts and say they went there on the, because he keep on telling us that these experts just came from Dubai and he found them there already at State House looking for jobs.
Government has to has to introduce austerity measures. It's something that this government and the previous ones have not been able to do in this country. We've talked about it so many times.
And really, I think you have seen the modus operandi of William Samoei Ruto since he came in. It's just showbiz.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Members of parliament, they go to State House, they just promised they get given tea, mandazi, and 100,000. That's not development.
External borrowing, 589 billion. Are we on the same page? What did Parliament pass?
If anything happened to a president today, God forbid, that man would become president. Na ndio alilenga hizo stories za Shakahola.
The real thing is our constitution has only one person who is accountable to us.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
I am also a publicly elected official. Okay. My salary is paid by your taxes.
Yes.
So if you need me to answer questions, we will not run away from you.
Asante
We will always be here.
The government itself is engaging in corrupt practices. That the government itself deliberately schemes to influence through bribery members of parliament.
You pay for a passport online. Alafu you're told there are no booklets.
I rebuke matters corruption because corruption has brought this country to its knees.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
SRC's mandate is constitutional. It's not an advice. It's actually something you must do.
Must do.
Like now you abandon, of course, the narrative of Wheelbarrow, Mutomjengo, Mama Mboga, and all those, that rosy narrative.
Your expenditure is 3.3 trillion, and you're collecting only 2.5. Out of that 2.5, you're spending 1.8 trillion to service loans and so forth.
That the CDF kit, it's itself a symptom of corruption.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's Friday. It's Friday.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good.
Ya salama?
Kabisa.
Are you sure? Ulikuja hapa ukiran?
Uko na vitu pending on the other side.
Uko na vitu pending?
Again. See, prepare for the show.
Oh, right. Right.
Lazima to insert inside the system.
Yes. Somebody is sinking meanwhile.
I know.
Nini mbaya? Good morning from up here down there. Nini is going down. Joe, Kamanya, what's up?
Yeah.
If we need an intervention. Kamanya is sinking. I don't understand. We need to keep him above the water.
I'm going to create the foundation.
All right, then everything is up from there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Uko salama?
Strengthen things from the bottom.
From the bottom up.
Siko salama, niko spice. Salama ni mtaa.
Are you okay?
Hey.
Okay.
Are you okay?
Habari yako?
Njema.
You just pulled a njema.
So can you understand stress?
Hey.
The gentlemen are fine.
How are you?
Okay?
Oh, yes.
Oh, thanks.
Fine we are.
I'm fine, thank you.
Wait, we are fine. Dennis.
Yes.
Let's bask in that moment. We are fine men, fine gentlemen.
Sorry.
Isn't that what you say?
Yes, you are. You are fine. No, it's true. It's true. That one I can't deny. Far be it from me to never appreciate the creation of the Lord. So,
yes. Go on.
Still stuck at the creation of the Lord.
No, that one is enough for now. Come again next week if you want.
Fine labor.
Yeah. That what he molded, it is pleasing in our eyes. Yes. Muko salama, we've confirmed.
Hatuko salama.
Oh, sorry. Muko njema. Okay, muko spice lakini pia muko salama. Muko njema. Gosh, so confusing.
Okay.
All at the same time. Pressure. Jeez. Evie, good morning. You're fine. Where did she go even? Oh,
Rapunzel.
Yeah, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Have you read that story actually? And to look at the meanings, I say that these stories for children are actually not for children.
Not for children, right? No.
They're for EVE.
They're for grown-ups. Go read. In fact, if you can find it, go read that Rapunzel story, and then tell me the deeper meanings therein. They're not for your 9-year-old girl or your 5-year-old boy. No, they're not. Go read it. Go read it today.
Just retired. Okay. Who should retire?
Oh, who should retire?
Yeah.
Leave us alone. It's the 22nd of May. There's 9 days left in the month, and May is done. How many Sundays?
62.
No, we can't. No, we were. Oh, it's still no.
Yeah.
No, 61 now.
61 now.
Okay.
444 days. If I must say, 14 months. So if there's something that you do every month, you only have 14 times to do it before you usher in a new regime.
All right.
If there's something you do every day, 444 days to go. Did we say weeks? 62.
61 Sundays.
61 Sundays.
So, yeah.
Yes. It's warming up nicely.
Sindo, it's going to be interesting.
It's going down.
Joyline is awake this Friday. It took us a whole week, but she's awake. We got to Friday and she has opened her eyes. We praise God. You know, it's like she's like those babies that are born and they have not opened their eyes. And after a week, and their eyes are open. That's Joyline. Good morning, everybody. And Nyokabi is here. Good morning, guys. It's good for us to know how these things happen. It's not just people behind the mic, but there's people who turn things and make them happen. So we don't take that for granted at all. A very good morning to you and welcome to Friday. This is The Situation Room. It's Joe Kamanya, Dennis Tola, Aseto, and Okoh with you in The Situation Room, getting into the penultimate week of the month of May.
Yes.
And so very happy to then join you. Our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X. Our audience on KTN. Good morning to you and those who listen silently as you get where you're going this Friday morning. Let's plug into some conversations and let me let you know what those will be. It's 6:15 and we're all in fine form, as you can see. I think that word fine is what we're going to keep using today. But okay. So our conversations today, as they normally do, start at 7 a.m. And it's a double whammy. For both hours. At 7 o'clock today, we speak with two ladies on our youth perspective, fuel and political undertones. Roseline Alionya is the chair of the Young Captains of ODM. Okay. And Sophie Mugure Njeri is the National Youth League chair of the PM party. All right. These two ladies will join us at 7 o'clock and we'll have a conversation around this. I think we might need to get a fire extinguisher in the studio. So perhaps, I think there is one actually. Today is the day we might employ it. Stella Gara is a governance and security analyst, and Daniel Orogo is a political analyst. They'll both be here. We'll be talking about political appointments versus professional qualification, what it is that we're looking at. Just before we came on, Joe was saying, I think we've got it wrong. People think that they need to get into office to then now change the lot of the people. No, you need to get into office and work.
Right.
Well, let's see how that goes. 9 o'clock, Healthy Friday. We're going to be talking around the surge in Ebola cases. This had dulled down for a couple of years and it's back. We already have a couple dead, and we had these horrific pictures yesterday of, you know, a community in a part of Uganda that were trying to take over a body that had been said to have died as a result of Ebola. And so you can imagine what could have happened in that situation where people were dragging body, health officials trying to drag everybody. You don't know who touched, who didn't touch. Oh my God. So now surveillance teams are trying to find out in that, not in that whole fracas,
right,
who was now patient zero, who touched first, pulled where. Yikes. So that doesn't look too good. It looks a little bit messy. So we'll talk about that at 9 o'clock. The president is to give an address this morning.
Okay.
We don't know, to Kenyans, the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just clarity. I'm seeking clarity.
This one was specific. The State House spokesperson sent out a message yesterday. And of course, we've seen that the chief, there's so many communications people at State House. But anyway, our former colleague, Emmanuel Talam, now then said, hey guys, 8 o'clock, be ready, bring yourselves. I doubt greatly that it will be at 8 o'clock, but this morning the president will address the nation.
Okay.
So be ready for the address. Coco. It's going to happen. Exactly.
Coco Jumbo.
Children are dying in this country.
Yes.
And not from disease. They are being killed. Children are being killed. Children are being killed. Children are being killed. How many times have I said it? Children are being killed. Instead of people to stand up and talk about this thing and to find out what the problem is, others are talking about how they feel slighted because somebody body shamed them. Stop it. Whereas that might be interesting and also necessary or important, children are being killed. Hello?
Yeah, like I think the leadership of Kirinyaga County seems to have the highest number of kids that are being abducted, found dead and missing. The leadership there needs to really address, pay attention, because a life lost is a life too many. A kid missing is a kid too many to go missing. So we need to safeguard our kids. Please, if you see something happening to a child, shout, raise alarm.
Absolutely.
Yes, save a child. We can. I'm sure we can save kids, because a lot of these things do not happen in isolation.
They don't.
It's just that sometimes you let it slide. It may not be as obvious to you, but just let's pay attention to our environment and keep it safe for all our kids. True. All of our kids.
True.
Yeah.
Parts of conversations that we'll have today, worrying all the same. So those are some of the things that are popping off this morning. And Mr. Aseto, sir, sir. Ulitupeleka Gabon. Haujatuambia the capital of Gabon ni gani?
Gaborone.
Hapana?
Gaborone.
Hapana. Gaborone is the capital of Botswana.
Ni?
So tell us. Libreville.
Freetown.
Freetown is Sierra Leone. Nini na wewe? Your geography is upside down today. You've decided it's Freetown.
It's Freetown.
It's actually Freetown, because Libreville en français is free city of Freetown.
Libreville.
Libre is freedom.
Something freedom.
Ville is a city or a town. So Freetown in English, en français, c'est Libreville.
You know, there's actually someone who said it's Gaborone because Gabo. You get. So anyway, the proverb today in the morning. Ini tamu. Mimi niko fit by the way.
Uko sure hakuna mtu amekuchokoza leo asubuhi? Hebu niambie wako wapi?
Nani ananichokoza asubuhi?
Kama niko wapi?
Kuna shida gani? Who raised them? Anyway, a canoe does not know who is king.
Who?
Canoe. Not canoe, your player. Canoe as in row, your boat.
I thought it was non-core canoe.
Yeah.
row your boat.
Yeah, row boat canoe. Does not know who is king.
Abi?
Yeah. Lazima mfikirie.
Its job is to sit on the water and be pushed by another strength.
Yes.
If you get in the canoe is unaware whether you are a prince or a pauper.
Yes.
It is going to do its job of moving you from point A to point B.
Yes. Kamanya. How would you interpret it?
I think it's talking about essentials that equalize life. You see, like when you're unwell and you need a doctor, you have no luxury of choosing. So the canoe does not discriminate.
Yes.
Whether it is ferrying a slave or a king or a queen, it just does its job. So it's about essentials in life that equalize. So you just need to know also the powers we need to surrender to. Because if you claim to be a king and you don't want to use a canoe, you cannot swim across the Mediterranean.
Thank you.
So know your place, respect, and work with the essentials.
So me, I'm going to look at it in terms of equality.
Right.
Nature treats everyone equally.
Mm.
You're a king and you're in a canoe. My friend, if Mother Nature shows up, you and your canoe, if you can't row your boat canoe, you're gone.
It's true.
It's true.
I think it's also a call for humility.
Yes.
That, excuse me, all of us, it doesn't matter. We're the same. And my dad used to, my dad said, sometimes he would just be sitting, his car is there, his driver is there, but he would sit like where the security guard was or somebody who's clean, kind of find out like, how you're doing. And he said, all of us are the same.
Yeah.
It's just that opportunity has given some of us to be in different spots. Opportunity has done that. But nature has, all of us are the same. So I think it's a call for humility. None of us is better than the other. And so we shouldn't imagine that when we go to the little room that you let out blocks of gold. No, you don't. All of us are the same.
So we are the same. So we should not be different from the Sahel region. We should not take things they're getting rid of. I'm just saying. Gabon is somewhere there, Sahel region.
We should not take what they've gotten rid of.
Yes,
we should exercise Libreville.
Indeed.
Free the towns of Africa.
Kabisa.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to do it quickly this morning and say hello to people. So let's do it real quick, shall we? Thanks for tuning in this morning. And we know that some of you are off to bed, but that some of you have chosen taken a minute to say hello as we get into the conversations for today. And those of you who are here in country, karibuni sana, and thank you for joining us. Sesa? Okay. A very good morning to you, Peter Kiaria. You're tuning from Mombasa and you say, don't believe everything you hear. Each story has three angles: yours, theirs, and the truth. Isn't that the truth?
Correctamente.
Kabisa. Tuned in from Nairobi, Pan-African Kenyan. Good morning to you. How are you doing? Hisa Daniel is tuning this morning, and tuning from Mombasa is Robert Mboko. Good morning, Spice FM. Tuned in this morning is Tibbs Muge. How are you? Leban Motaroki says, good morning, people tuned in as well. Mahanu Oliver says, the rate at which kids are being kidnapped is so alarming. I hope we find a solution before it becomes a national disaster. In my opinion, it already is. And the nature of what we are seeing is we think it's not bad, it's bad. And that we don't have people speaking about it, but we have people speaking about some trivial, unimportant crap. It drives me nuts. I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit upset, but okay.
You're allowed to. You sound okay.
You're okay.
Bob Akoko says, good morning, Spice crew, listening all the way from Karachonyo.
Hey. Kindube.
Homa Bay.
Homa Bay County.
He's asking if Dennis... Yeah. And I actually, I did the business. I got my soft bristle brushes from Dennis yesterday. Before I get back to you. For the whole year.
Oh.
So yes, Asante Sana. He did. Leo says, good morning. The problem with our KK MPs is most got funded to campaign by the one they're supposed to oversight. Exactly. Can you imagine now you're supposed to call somebody out? It's like Tanzania. You know what happens is that the largest party gives money to the other candidates and gives them vehicles to go and run campaigns.
Yeah.
What do you expect is going to happen? I mean, surely. Kimiyak, I'm already laughing, but okay. They have now taken our selfish transport reps to our sandy beaches to manipulate them even more. Reject fuel prices because nothing good will come out of the Kenya Kwanzaa regime. Kimia, good morning, sir.
Oh, they actually went
Yeah.
because the president is in Kwale.
Yeah. I think he's coming back this morning. I think he's back or something
He's
like
back.
that.
He was in Kwale yesterday, I think.
Yeah, but he was in Mombasa and Kwale County yesterday. So, okay. Do with that information as you wish.
Yeah.
Michael Olande says, bonjour mes amis, bonjour.
Bonjour, bonsoir.
Bonsoir ni jioni.
No, bonsoir is a pidgin English that is spoken by the Sishawa people. So instead of saying bonjour, they'll say bonsoir. Yes.
This session that you went to, let's talk about that later. With all due respect, says Osena Mark, leo ni Friday na tumeanza weekend. Orengo aliongea jana mlisikia. Yeah, everybody was just throwing barbs back and forth. Isaac Ali says, hey, Oparanya says he's now begging PSs for fuel money. In this government, even CSs are doing harambe for quarter tank. Soon, the official vehicle of state will be a Pro Box powered by pending bills. Wait. Isaac Ali, good morning. Wanjigi says, good morning, Spice. How are you all this morning? Fine, thank you. Indeed, all persons who are not citizens of heaven have a price tag. It is very true. Everybody's got a price.
True.
It's true.
With all due respect.
Wait. Good morning, guys.
I respect my dues.
Says Eric Award. Good morning to you, Eric. Nation Gugi says, good morning, Ndu, Joe, and Jamal Barak, my dear brother Dennis. Deno, can you imagine if Baba was alive and this week's Arsenal victory and called for a victory parade? Hope he's happy in the afterlife. Love from Arizona. Kabisa.
You know Baba never used to lay back. Piga dance.
Arsenal won, eh?
They did, and we're not going to hear the rest.
We don't even
the end
play
of
the
it.
last game, by the way. Just so you.
You're an Arsenal fan, my guy.
Yes. Anything you need to say?
Painfully, let me say. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you and some two people. One called for Nise. I know they are listening and watching. And another one called Mike. They are Arsenal diehards. I've been giving them grief. You know, because I was telling them Arsenal is Arsenal. They have a way of losing.
But this one they've won.
But this one, I'm sure you are surprised.
Surprise!
Johnson.
Congratulations.
Johnson Samande, who is in our IT department, has been wearing Arsenal jerseys the whole week.
Wow.
And he says that he has an Arsenal jersey even for the next week every day. So there's going to pepper them. Kabisa.
Okay.
Good morning, Johnson Samande. Good morning, Ndu Joe and Ndu Aseto and Joe from Toronto. My throat is still sore, but I'm happy to see Joe rocking the scarf. He looks so fine.
Thank you.
Linda Gola says, salut mes amis, c'est vendredi. Indeed, it is. It is Friday. Clinton Sereti says, the rate at which people are killing others, kids getting stolen, rape cases, it's sickening. It is. It is, actually. And if something doesn't pinch you, then we have to have a question, or rather have a conversation about where our values are.
Yes, that's something we need to do. Is Toronto an English speaking or French speaking?
Toronto is English part of Canada.
Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Paulo says, good morning, Spices. Nice weekend, good people. Fiery Red says, good morning, Ndu Aseto Joe. Aseto, akupata memo ya kuvaa blue. Sino?
Nikona navy blue.
It's navy blue, actually.
navy.
It's blue. It's blue. Christina says, good morning. Good morning to you. Wanda says, Ndu, quick question. Why do you never show the people behind the mic? Are they shy? My sister, I have tried. I have begged. I've even gone to look for a white cock with blue eyes to sacrifice it above the on top of the altar. They didn't agree. They are smiling at me now because they know themselves. I've even gone to look for a white goat with pink eyes.
But you know, what made it even difficult is Baba asked us to come with the milk from the chicken. Impossible.
My sister, they have refused. Dennis is not feeling well this morning. They have refused. Davil says, good morning. Good morning to you. Collins Juma is also tuned in this morning from Damascus. Ati?
Okay.
Okay, return from... Okay, he said return from Damascus, and the guy doesn't even have time to rest. Okay. Sawa. Hezron Kiprop says, good morning. We know a guy called Kiprop. Sindio, AVE, we're looking for him. We'll find him later. SpiceFM, as the country deals with another finance bill, kindly set more time for a budget and economic experts. We're going to actually do that in the coming days. Atieno Germain says, good morning, 254 TGIF Kabisa. Carol Nyambura, good morning. And Atupenda Sana, blessed day ahead, my sister. Hope you're doing well. Masharia and Njeri says, good morning, Spice team, watching from Portland in Oregon. Kenya Kweli Nchi ya Jabu. Dan Kuto says, good morning, Team Spice. Eldoret is okay. Kindly bring my president, Jimmy Wanjigi, to the show. Just my throat is just, my throat just needs...
You want to read that again?
Kindly bring his president back to the show.
To the show.
And who is that?
Jimmy Wanjigi.
Okay.
Okay. So the message has hit home.
The message is home.
Mutuflani says, good morning.
Oh, Mutuflani, how are you?
The guys deal with the fire extinguisher, but you should prepare a padded room and straight jackets. Where we ready, man? Emma Oirongo says, good morning, Malimo Oirongo. Emma's from Kisi. Good morning, Malimo. Karibu sana, and thank you for bringing in the tale. Karibu sana kila mtu. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to get into it real quick. What I want to do right now, take a quick break, let you know what the weather's going to look like going into the weekend. How about those rains that came down yesterday? The little Spanish boy is making his entrance through this neck of the woods, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks because it's going to be wet. We'll be back in a minute.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with Spice FM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see 16 degrees currently with a high of 26. It's 14 and sunny into Nakuru. And mostly cloudy at 15 in Njeri, going to a high of 24. It's 19 and cloudy in Kisumu and 17 and cloudy into Kakamega. Mombasa is sunny at 24 and we're seeing sunny conditions at 26 into Malindi. It's 19 degrees into Marsabit and we're looking at a cloudy morning at 18 in Kampala and 22 and partly sunny in Dar es Salaam. 8 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg, and it's cloudy at 27 in Lagos with 15 and cloudy conditions and actually clear conditions in Beijing. I beg your pardon, in London. It's rainy this morning in Beijing, and Thursday night is cloudy in New York. Coming into Friday, we'll see a high of 17 and a low of 14.
Chilled Spice. Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, is it already a busy morning where you are today? And it seems like there will be some traffic coming into the city from the thicker superhighway. Not too crazy yet. We don't expect that to go too badly. We know that there will be outbound traffic. It is the weekend after all. So right now on the thicker superhighway, we're seeing that traffic whittle down to the Pangani underpass and then heading out towards Moranga Road. Everywhere else at a dull roar for now. There's some traffic spilling over from James Kishore. It's going to find its way onto Wayaki Way. And if you're on Gong Road coming into that Naivasha Road stretch, the junction, Riara Road, that little bit, it seems to be a bit messy this morning. So patience. Also, we know the construction continues, or that contraption, whatever is happening there, it's going to slow folks down just a little bit. Let's talk and keep things moving through the day. Spice FM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This May, unlock endless drama every single day on Star Times. Unrivaled stories, characters you can't forget. Recharge your monthly subscription today. More love and burning romance on Come Back to Me. Heartbreaking betrayals on Just Revenge on Novella E+. More secrets on The Brave on ST Swahili. More twists that leave you breathless on Gangs of Manila Season 3 on Novella E. Now on Nyota Bouquet on Ariel and Nova Bouquet on Dish. The drama never stops. To renew your subscription, dial *858# for self-service or get in touch with our call center on 0719-077-077 for customer care. Buy a StarTimes decoder at any of our dealer shops countrywide. Download the StarTimes On app to enjoy all your favorite shows and stream live channels on the move. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so we're getting into it this morning at 25 minutes to 7 o'clock, and we're looking into the headlines on the front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. Big letdown, and the two speakers of the two houses of the National Assembly and the Senate, Moses Wetangula and Amason Kingi. Speakers Moses Wetangula and Amason Kingi are under fire for appearing more preoccupied with President William Ruto's 2027 re-election campaign than the crippling fuel crisis that brought Kenya to its knees early this week. As Wananchi endured an economic paralysis, the two houses of parliament remained silent and absent, refusing to convene an urgent sitting to address the pain at the pump. Instead, Wetangula toured Mount Kenya preaching political calm, while Kingi joined Ruto's coast rallies, attacking the opposition. Critics now say Parliament has abandoned its constitutional duty to defend Kenyans and has become a cheerleading squad for the executive. Wait. Guys, where are you? Hey. Okay, that's what the headline looks like. We'll look into the story and the details as to why that is the case. School unrest, fuel price hike add burden on battling parents. Yeah, the school unrest is a thing. We've seen more schools, have attacks, and it's a bit worrying. It's actually a lot worrying because a number of schools have been closed. Children have been brought before court. And this picture here is the aftermath of fire at Sigalame Boys School in Funila, Busia County, when a dormitory was set ablaze by an unknown arsonist, and that just happened over the last week. Okay, so we're looking at a lot happening in the eastern part of the country. Now we're seeing that spreading to the western part of the country. So yikes, doesn't look good. 12 schools, Taita Taveta County alone. And so now we see that who has ever dealt with the issues of school unrest? Rising cases of missing children raise alarm over safety, and that people are even saying, can I even let my child walk to the gates unattended? And the answer is no.
No.
Can you imagine that that's where we are right now? That where you would see children happily walking along and you know that somebody was going to protect them, that we had community thinking and community coalescence to say, okay, guys, there's a child. I do not know their parent, but I have a responsibility as community member to make sure that they're okay, or to at least ask the question, where are you going and who are you going with? That doesn't happen. What are we finding? Children turning up dead.
True.
Eric Omondi told us about a child who fell into the river. His mother's camped out, by the river looking for him. Now, that's not somebody being predatory. That was an accident that happened, but still, another child gone. So, yikes, it doesn't look good. And for those we're seeing a lot more cases in terms of defilement.
Yes.
The deviant evil of taking a child's innocence has become more rampant. And it's interesting to note as well that a minor has been arrested for the murder of this 12-year-old girl that happened in Nakuru County over the last couple of days, where she was raped and she was hung by barbed wire and tossed into a plantation. Yes, I'm going to say the details because that is exactly what happened. And she was found Tuesday evening. And with that, a minor, a 16-year-old, has been arrested because he is said to be the last person who was around her. Okay.
Yeah.
That's happening. We're going to talk about this at 9 o'clock, where experts warn Kenya at Ebola risk amid weak border surveillance. Ebola is a body hemorrhage infection. The WHO suspects the outbreak has killed 139 people in DRC and Uganda. Virologists warn of poor monitoring and health workers' preparedness. Mm-hmm. Didn't expect that the Ebola was going to be out again, but there it is. 139 people in a very short period of time. DR Congo and Uganda have struggled with this considerably for years. Equatorial Guinea, Sierra Leone, parts of West Africa also suffered with this. Just a reminder, Ebola symptoms: high fever, severe weakness and fatigue, headache, muscle and joint pains, sore throat, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, unexplained bleeding and or bruising. The first 5 of those symptoms, you might think you have malaria, because that's what we're looking at, isn't it? High fever, severe weakness and fatigue, headache, muscle, joints and pains. And then we get into the sore throat and vomiting. So we're going to talk about Ebola 9 o'clock, but is it a source of concern? It is. House speakers put on a spot over being mute over raging fuel crisis. Yeah, they were not mute over other things, but this one doesn't look good. Central OCS steps aside as police investigate release of 64 suspects. Excuse me, please, I want you to hear the third and fourth word in that headline. Central OCS steps aside as police do what? Investigate release of 64 suspects. Steps what?
Aside.
Okay. When other police officers were named in a possible injury and death of Albert Ojwang, did you hear that anybody stepped aside?
Nope.
Oh, okay, I'm just asking. This guy, who's come under fire, has said, you know what? Okay, no problem. I released 64 suspects because I didn't feel as though a threshold of any kind of guilt had been met, and that if even they were taken before the court of law, the magistrate was likely to throw it out because what were we arresting them for? Let them go. If you see that that was a wrong thing for me to do, sawa. Acha nika hapa, you guys figure out.
You know what the OCS has done? It's just built a jurisprudence on what public officers should do when they're being investigated.
Step
aside.
Okay.
Yes.
To allow investigations to continue.
You know, like when you lose 11 billion under your watch.
Yes.
Money that belongs to Kenyans for health. You step
aside.
Yes. When you lie about
when
G2G.
grade 10 kids cannot be placed appropriately, and you're the one who is in charge of that whole system and Ministry of Education, you step
aside.
When you lie to Kenyans about infrastructure fund and divestiture, you
step
aside.
When you promised us that G2G would work and it does not, you
step
aside. Imagine it can be done. Imagine. Somebody in Kenya who was in a position of authority has done what?
Stepped aside.
And even that one, what he did is not like against the Constitution. Imagine it's not imagine what he did is not contrary to the Constitution.
He's
but
just being compliant. He's being compliant.
You guys are taking the Constitution, you're putting it through the ringers, you're painting it different colors, and you're still not stepping aside for any kind of anything to continue.
Yes. And you see his consistency. The trumped up charges that would have been preferred against the guys who are arrested. He said they're not worth it. Let them go. Then he's charged himself and he says, the law says, if I'm under investigation, holding a public office, I should step. The guy is very constitutional. Well done, OCS.
Absolutely.
Well done.
You're turning the man into a hero.
Yeah. And I love what Kenyans did. I think they went to the hospital.
They went to the hospital
they
and said,
made sure
kama
he was
kuna pingu toa.
Kama hajakula tutamlisha. Gotta love it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Kenyans.
New Kenya. You see, Kenya mpya. Here we are.
It's coming.
It's coming. 444 days. Yes.
In case you were wondering, the fuel crisis, which people are supposed to be discussing, by the way, 7 days, today is day 4, has been put on the back burner.
Okay.
Because we're talking about the campaign for the president.
Okay.
That's taken center stage. So you guys were told that the price is going to come down after 7 days, and that if that doesn't happen, we're going to go back on strike. So you would imagine that people will hold up in offices, lock the door, burning the midnight oil, and say, "Oh, guys, let's crunch the numbers and see how we're going to figure this out." Because we care for Kenyans, and that we don't want Kenyans to have to suffer this thing, and that perhaps there's something we can do. This is the conversation that is supposed to be happening behind closed doors. But now, how about we stand on a couple of vehicles at the coast?
I
don't know. So maybe I'm just being whatever. It's possible that today the president is going to address the nation in about 2 hours. Okay. It's possible that he shall be telling us that maybe they had a midnight conversation with all of these people, or that they are going into a conversation. But then I have to ask myself, why does it take the president to come back after he has appointed people and they have the responsibility of sorting out this thing, but then he still has to come back and deal? Just axing.
Do as I say.
Well,
not as you're supposed to.
Yeah, just wait. Did you say 8 o'clock?
They said 8 o'clock, but let's say 9:30.
I may wait.
Yeah,
Let me wait.
But you guys,
wait and
I mean, I also mnachosha president ametoka Azerbaijan, akana jet lag, and then mpeleka coast na hiyo joto. I mean, the guy should have at least left.
No, like yesterday or like today. But we don't have time. The days zimeisha. Saturday, Sunday. Imebaki siku tatu.
But see, I thought he's appointed experts who know what it is they're doing.
Did you see that dog and pony show that was happening there, where the people couldn't even decide who was who? Did you see?
Where is Kamanya?
I'm just asking. Kamanya. It's another day for you to say that nothing good will come out of it. This is him saying, A judge dismissed a kidney seller 1.5 million shilling case against Medihealth. This whole thing is still an issue, guys. It's a bit tricky because the guy is saying, excuse me, I gave them my kidney. They promised to give me money. I am kidneyless. I am moneyless. Sasa tutafanyaje? Court says, but that
the hospital says it was a donation.
You can rock up to hospital and say, hey guys, it's a nice Friday. I have an extra kidney I ain't using.
Open me up.
Open here. Take it.
Hey.
No, here. Seriously?
Yeah, that's what the hospital says. That he donated it to a cousin.
Oh, it was a cousin. Also, it was a family affair.
Yeah.
So then, whom was he suing? Who was supposed to pay?
So the hospital pretty much is telling him, go and collect it back to your cousin.
Still within the family. But that's whole organs harvesting scandal.
It's a big one.
It ran deeper, but it was covered just like the fuel story.
Wametoa security
Orengo.
CIA Governor Orengo. Senior Counsel Governor Orengo, freedom fighter, man with a mission. Nini. So he has said, you guys should not play with me. You, IG, you Murkomen, Kula summons, sued them. Said we're not playing that, just play rubbish.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Niliangusha elections unacheza na mimi.
I'll deal with you, nonsense. And omena.
Was he the one driving the canter? Full of evidence. But senior cancer, he's put up a good fight for the country. He's fought for the democratic space. It is unfortunate how we try to politicize some of these elements like security, because somebody could easily take advantage of the security. Of course. And then what will we be saying?
Different
I think,
story.
Let's be very constitutional in our practice.
Give the man back his cops.
Yes. And he's entitled to his opinion. Yes.
Yeah.
He can, again, he's a de facto, party leader?
Yes.
There's also that.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
All right, let's go to the delineation. Knife thugs terror is what you're seeing, and the number of cases that you're seeing here, total 51, starting from crime of passion all the way to leadership wrangles, is the array of crimes that we see here. Now, it is a dangerous trend, and it says stabbing are increasingly becoming a nightmare in the country, with a government report highlighting boring assaults in at least 22 counties, including Nairobi, that recorded the most attacks by knife-wielding assailants between January 2025 and March 2026. It is the state that is saying this. One asked the question, mnadu nini na hiyo information? Ruto flies into raging fuel storm, convenes crisis talks.
Oh, Bas, I told you. Can't just, no, can't just leave it like that. But I guess for you guys.
Yeah, crisis talks. Let's see what he'll say at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Now, why Orengo's state security was withdrawn, here Governor James Orengo blames his criticism of President Ruto's administration and his role in the Linda Mwananchi movement for the move. So, uliamua wewe ni Linda Mwananchi, sawa, we will withdraw security so that Mwananchi akulinde.
Kula blocking.
Mimi ndi admin kwa hii WhatsApp group. It's okay. Sometimes I look at things and I just think it's childish.
Come on.
Yes. I'm sorry, it's just childish. You can do better. There are better things you can do with security, How about you just withdraw security for all state officers and trust that Kenyans will protect them?
Yeah.
Just saying, Yeah, those police officers could be used like in Nairobi with all those cases we're reporting. The security officers have deployed to ensure security of Nairobi would be a good thing.
And kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, dude. I just said it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Court battle exposes fake TSC pension accounts.
Oh, God in heaven.
Yes. The commission issued Pauline Bita multiple interdiction letters after she had already been suspended. Now, a legal battle between the Teacher Service Commission and former pension officials has shown how fictitious bank accounts were used to siphon retired tutors' payments before the National Treasury detected the fraudulent scheme. Let me tell you, you've detected it. Money has been stolen. Return them up. Return the money. Hivi tu ingine ni catwalk nyingi na maneno. Ni catwalk nyingi sana. You know where the problem is, you know who stole the money, return the money to the teachers.
Sorry, is it a good day to ask? See,
Yes.
like we're talking about money that is missing. Is it a good day to ask? CS Murkomen said that the people who attacked Senator Osotsi were on the run outside the country. Wamepatikana? I'm just asking. Aya. Back to you in studio, sir.
And then, wanajua alikimbia wapi? Was it Uganda?
See, they said they know they're on the run outside the country.
Outside
if you
the
have
country.
established that fact,
then
you must know where they are.
Because, you know, there's another thing that usually happens. G2G is not just on fuel. G2G is also on security, surveillance and everything, right? So this G2G would work and return those guys, and they face criminal charges in the country.
One way. When we want Besige back to Uganda, the G2G works.
G2G works.
But when we want attackers of Osotsi back to Kenya,
it doesn't work.
There is traffic.
There's traffic.
Yes.
It's also a good day to say that, to remind us that Kizza Besigye is still in jail.
Yes.
Yes.
And Kenya has been quoted to having played a role as to why he's still in jail, in a military jail to be specific. Okay, Finance Bill 2026, the phone tax dropped in 2024, reintroduced. 25% excess duty on phones at activation point.
Hey, God.
Imerudi like it never left. It is here.
The only thing that is reducing in this life of ours, the number of days before we vote. Nothing else. That's the only countdown we have. But all the other figures keep going up.
Yeah, I think that is what we have on pages. That will be 13. We are now in the opinion pages of the Daily Nation. Be sure to get yourself a copy of the same. What do you have, Kamanya?
I have the Nairobian. Yebo. A lot going on there. Sex, cash, and death inside high-stakes secret affairs and blackmail.
That's happening in Kenya.
Yeah. A story from boardrooms to bedrooms, a hidden world of power, desire, and danger.
Which one has more power?
Where private affairs turn into scandal, alleged extortion, and devastating fallout. There's a former CEO here who seemed to have it all, wealth, power, and a glittering career. But behind the sharp suits and executive success lay a secret romance, blackmail claims, and a scandal that ended in tragedy. A lot of these cases go untold, and stories really are not well handled. But there's a lot that happens between the power, desire, and those secret affairs. So the story continues on page 22 and 23. However, still on the front page, you have the sex law bombshell. Teen sex, not a crime.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That story, we had it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah. It's still a thorny issue.
It is.
Because there is a borderline, position to be assumed between morality and law and consent, So there's a lot. But how I wish as a society we would have better societal norms and try to impact on our teens so they're able to make sound decisions. Because sometimes, unfortunately, the law you cannot regulate morality using law.
No, you cannot.
You cannot. But the values that we have in our home states, in our communities, in our neighborhoods can shape, the character and the quality of decisions that teenagers get to make. And also, what do we, because you could be talking a lot, and you could even try to impact values at the home level. But what do we expose our kids to? What do they watch? How much attention do you pay to that, that PG? The rating of all the movies and the YouTube and all the other social media, because they're impactful. They'll generate curiosity and kids are growing.
That's true.
Are we having real life conversations with our kids? Because, consequences are just there waiting for us.
Yep.
Then also, court opens door to ID gender changes. That's an interesting conversation because our constitution only recognizes two genders, male and female. So there is a court opens door for gender marker changes amid identity papers drama. It says, someone here is saying, my clients and bank agents look at me as a female, but my identity card is that of a male. I am then suspected to be a criminal using fake documents.
So what are you?
These are transgender person.
Changed or by themselves? They decided?
Yeah, I think it's by choice, yes.
Okay.
Yes. You know, even I've seen people out there in the world saying I'm of the feline.
So you are a cat.
I identify with. Yeah, I mean, you haven't had these stories.
So, like, I could stand up today and say, you know what? Today, I actually identify as a red-breasted robin.
Yeah.
And I want to sit in the trees.
Yeah.
Will you take
and
me
you make
seriously?
the sound. Choo-choo.
Today I just want to be identified as Bosco. Whoa.
You see? So, there's a lot.
Hey, God.
And psychology has a lot to say about this.
Yeah.
Yes. So, page 9, alarm of rising cases of missing children is 10,581 incidents have been reported.
Jesus Christ.
That's alarming.
It is.
Like, really, we should be worried. You know, here I've seen a story how a client meal cost a Pride Inn hotel senior chef his job. They prepared a meal for a client without a ticket from the kitchen. You know how you place your order?
Yeah.
So then he was fired. But that's not my story.
Okay.
Whenever I want to have coffee,
Here we go.
you know everybody has a plug.
Yeah.
My plug for latte is mug and bean. But I think they are deciding to close shop. This last week I had a very bad experience. Not with the coffee, but with the people serving the coffee. So something I'll talk about some other day.
Some other day.
But whatever you do, you know, we business people, whatever keeps our businesses running are the people.
Yes.
And trust.
True.
It's true.
So if your customer care is one thing, trust you me.
So's your business.
Yes.
Yep.
So please, mug and bean. See, you know what I'm talking about.
They
know.
They know.
Yeah, yes. The coffee is good, but please serve it well.
Okay.
Well, Kitengela is fast becoming a hotbed of demonstration. That's the story on page 14. You know, there are those areas when you hear something is coming up, you know.
Yeah.
After playing football, after Arsenal winning. I think Arsenal was an inspiration to these fuel protests.
Oh, here we go.
People played football in the morning.
They did.
Yes.
They even ran athletics.
Yes.
You know.
And then in the afternoon, they did the deed, you know. So there is that. But of interest, back to the Standard, page 15. Talks about the economy and says 1-term and 2-term slogans mean nothing when majority of Kenyans suffer from poverty.
Absolutely.
True.
100%.
I think that's something we need to wrap our heads around and really.
And I'm going to say it here. 1-term, 2-term means nothing.
Yep.
When 10,000 children are missing, when children are being found having been raped and hung by barbed wire in a plantation, it means nothing when children cannot go to school.
Yes.
It means nothing when people cannot be treated. It means nothing when you cannot put fuel in vehicles and that people cannot get from point A to point B without walking. It means nothing.
Yes.
It means nothing when I walk into a hospital and I can't get treated. I'm sorry.
It means nothing.
It means nothing when you have an economy and the government is owing Kenyans close to 1 trillion shillings. It means nothing.
It means nothing when all our tax revenue is going to pay odious debt. Money we never benefited from.
When we come to that reality and say that you don't need to be considering whether somebody will be there for 1 or 2 or 15,000 terms, that the point of the matter here is that if you are not doing the work, just get all of you, get out. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
And that you cannot keep Kenyans held by some aspiration, that you need to be working now. Now.
Yes.
There's some reprieve for Tuju on one side, but there is then, the court has said, you know what, we're going to open up and allow some property to be sold unless you place a 50 million shilling deposit.
Yep.
And then this other one, we're going to hold on the sale of that. That cannot be sold right now. So he's got a bit of a pickle to deal with at the moment. The transport strike exposed the soft underbelly of Ruto's administration. I said yesterday that somebody said, you know what, right now, the way we see cabinet, you can just move people. Put this person, take them to sports. Take this person, move them to education. Take this person, move them to internal security. It wouldn't make a difference.
Could it
Anybody can just do whatever.
Even take them and make them a deputy president. It has never made a difference in
Could
this
it be
regime.
that because the soft underbelly has been exposed, perhaps this is just for me to speak, perhaps maybe the president is planning to reshuffle the cabinet?
Who knows? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock will tell.
Step aside.
Step aside.
Step aside.
Go home.
You have those things have to come and play in your head. That it's very worrisome if that you can move people around in a cabinet and won't feel the effect. I gotta ask. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Sheila Tembor. President William Ruto is expected to address the nation today from State House, Mombasa, where he is on a 5-day tour of the coast region. The address scheduled for 8 a.m. is expected to focus on the rising cost of fuel and the ongoing concerns raised by transport sector workers across the country. The meeting comes hours after President Ruto held talks with transport workers in Mombasa yesterday evening, where he reportedly listened to their grievances over increased fuel prices and rising operating costs. The workers had earlier increased fares by 50% and staged a strike before temporarily suspending their industrial action. They have warned of another strike beginning Tuesday next week if their demands are not addressed before the expiry of a 7-day notice on Monday. Attention is now on the president's statement as the government seeks to resolve the dispute following his return from an official visit to Kazakhstan. The National Assembly's Trade, Industry and Cooperatives Committee has urged the State Department for MSMEs to strengthen financial literacy training before issuing funds through government empowerment programs. MPs said beneficiaries of loans and grants should first be equipped with skills on financial management to help sustain their businesses and reduce dependence on government support. The remarks were made during discussions on the 2026-2027 budget estimates in a session chaired by Ikolomani MP Bernard Shinali. The committee reviewed funding allocation for empowerment initiatives, including the Nyota program and the Hustler Fund.
Last year we had no allocation. There's too much demand on this. People now have to wait for 1 or 2 days to be given their request. Because they are accounting officers, they are always signing for themselves. So I don't want to continue. I don't want to continue being a beggar from my juniors.
Officials told the committee that the Nyota program has so far disbursed more than 2.28 billion shillings to support youth-owned businesses, describing it as the country's largest direct youth empowerment initiative. They also said the Hustler Fund has disbursed over 14.4 billion shillings since its launch, benefiting millions of Kenya through affordable loans. The department is now seeking an additional 11.3 billion shillings to expand the Nyota program and enroll more beneficiaries.
The money that we have remained with in this current financial year is only 900 million, and we cannot disburse to a section of the beneficiaries and leave others to pend.
Meanwhile, the department's PS told MPs that the Hustler Fund requires more financing to improve liquidity, expand loan services, and help borrowers transition into the formal financial system. Officials are seeking an additional 5 billion shillings to address funding shortages that have limited access to credit, especially under the bridge loan product. However, some lawmakers question the long-term sustainability of the fund, arguing that it was designed as a revolving fund dependent on loan repayments rather than continuous government injections.
Hustler Fund was supposed to be like a revolving fund. We put seed capital, it is borrowed, it is repaid, whether with interest or no interest. In that event then, it becomes a revolving fund. We do not need any further funding.
ODM Deputy Party Leader Abdul Samad Nasir has criticized members of the Linda Mwananchi faction within ODM opposed to the party's partnership with UDA, accusing them of betraying the political ideals of Raila Odinga. Speaking in Mombasa, Nasir said the ODM-UDA cooperation is intended to address challenges facing Kenyans, particularly long-standing land issues championed by Raila Odinga over the years. He maintained that the partnership is focused on development and service delivery rather than political interest.
Kwa wale ambao kwamba wenye kuita wengine wasaliti, you are the betrayer of the cause of Raila Amolo Odinga, who shed blood, who shed tears, who was inside jail for the purposes of land for the people of this country. Today it is Ruto, William Samoei Ruto, under his presidency, that is delivering on a promise that made Raila lose his livelihood. Na mimi hutumia msemo huu siku zote, mkeka mbuzi ya shaula, hasidi atakaa wapi?
And that's the news. I'm Sheila Tembor.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Every time he kept on saying he wants a vibrant opposition.
How does it make sense that public money has been used already and then they dare to sell it back to you? Why they're not giving them for free?
That's how broken we are. That's how broken we are.
They are being sent home now for fees. They're going to fail to prepare. We are compromising the futures of these children.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who are initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 8 minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday, the 22nd of May. And we're getting into it this morning. We're coming to the end of the week and we're going to look at it as we normally do from the youth perspective. Of course, this week has been laden with quite a number of things. We've come off of, I don't know, the end, the interim, what are those things? What happens when there's a play and then what happens in the middle when there's a break? Something like that. I don't even remember. I will remember when now it doesn't matter.
The Arsenal people will tell us.
Okay, I want to say it's halftime of the fuel crisis. I don't know. But all of those things happening in the same space. And so we're having that conversation today. Sasa watu wa Arsenal tumeelewa. We know that there's no breathing. We get it. So we look at fuel and political undertones this hour. Both our guests are here for the first time in the hot seat. Roseline Alionya is the chair of the Young Captains of ODM. Roseline, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just say congratulations so that we can move that.
Thank you for acknowledging that we won the EPL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, a friend of mine.
I'm not. I haven't said that.
You are Manu.
Abuja told me.
No.
She said to me yesterday, she said, all of you people whose husbands are Arsenal fans, now is the time to ask them for something. They will give you.
They will give you a
Sophie Mugura Jehia is the National Youth League Chair, PM Party. Good morning.
Good morning, dear.
Karibu sana.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys again.
Good to have you in the room. Thank you so much. So let's get into it. First of all, Dennis is going to share today's proverb. He'll tell you what to do with it.
Our proverb comes from Gabon, from a French colony, rich in resources, including fuel. They are also considered to be a country that is the lung of the world because of the Congo Basin that and the forest cover that they do have. But the proverb this morning, a canoe does not know who is king. A canoe does not know who is king. How would you interpret it, Alionya?
What is the spelling of the canoe?
Canoe. Canoe, row your boat, canoe.
I think I would, from how I've had it on the face value, I think I would say many a times we never know the importance of someone until they have left. That is when you realize, oh, that person was the king. I think that's what I would say. I think for me, that would be Baba, Raila. So people probably are going to feel his impact, his absence after the 2027 election. They will now realize he was king.
Right. Mugure, how would you interpret it?
I think from a Mwananchi perspective, I would say it doesn't matter who's at the top. The canoe just wants to move. It wants to get to the other end of where it's sailing to. So as Kenyans, it doesn't matter who is president, for as long as the constitution and the rule of law is followed, for as long as our basic needs, according to Article 43, are met, for as long as we are going to hospital, we just need a moving country. So the canoe does not need to know who is king. As Kenyans, our main focus is not who is in power, but what is the benefit of that power to us.
Well said, well broken down.
Indeed.
I love the fact that you've brought it home, both of you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks, ladies. Intermission. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Wanda. The English did not come by canoe. Okay.
The app says play on.
Play on.
Yeah, play on.
Okay, so we started off Monday by not going anywhere. Except for folks who had to get where they went. It was at a standstill. We woke up Tuesday morning, still the same thing. And let's just take a wrap from where we are right now, from both of you. Let's start off with that there was an opportunity for people to voice their concerns about certain things. The opportunity was dressed up as pain at the pump. It was dressed up as high fuel prices, but the opportunity, when you look at it bare frame, was that people had another opportunity to say, we are not satisfied with a particular thing. How do you think that played out, Roseline?
First, let me appreciate the Matatu sector for coming out clearly to speak and say that they were against the increment in fuel prices because they were considering the Kenyan Mwananchi. But the question that I've been asking myself all this while is, during the December holidays, who do the Matatu industry consult when they hike the fuel double? So in December this year, I will be alert as Alionya and I will be going around asking them. Because if they stood like the way they stood for us this time round, probably when schools close, we'll not be seeing Matatus hiking fuel double just because the schools are closed.
Hiking fare.
Yes, hiking fares. Largely just because the learners have closed school. Nonetheless, we appreciate them because it is out of their I would call it silent demonstration, because for them they were demonstrating by not ensuring that their vehicles are not on the road. So now deliberations were made. I think it was on a Tuesday. People sat and they said we'll reduce diesel by 10 shillings. So, and they have said they're giving the government 7 days or 1 week to consult further so that the prices go down further. So to me, I look at it positively, but I want to, there's a time I was on TV and I was telling people our fuel is even higher because of very many vehicles in Kenya compared to Uganda, because that is the country people are using. But if you look at the statistics of Uganda, I was looking at it this morning as I was coming here. From February, their petrol was going at 175, their diesel was at 166, while we are cognizant of the fact that they are still consuming a fuel that they bought around March. That fuel is now going in May at 189. So this fuel has gone up with 10 shillings. By the time they are consuming
in Uganda,
yes. By the time they are consuming fuel with the prices that are being bought in May and even April, we don't know how far that price will go. So we must acknowledge that yes, there's fuel hikes across the world because of whatever we are witnessing in Iran and US war that has affected where the oil, 20% of the oil passes. Yeah. But we have seen people politicizing it and saying, you can't blame the Strait of Hormuz. But if you look at the countries where we get our oil, Saudi Arabia, the Abu Dhabi, the Oman, all of them, they have to pass through the Strait of Hormuz for it to get to Indian Ocean, for it to get to us. So we must acknowledge, nonetheless, if there's I would call it a challenge I saw during the Monday strike is people didn't get to work. Those who had emergencies, those who were sick, they couldn't get to hospital. So it is up to the government to come up with, if we can have, I don't know how to call it, government buses, so that they come in handy in such times, even if it is just ferrying people for free. Because people had to get to work for emergency work. There's someone who was giving birth that day. You can just imagine whatever they had to go through. So in times of crisis like those, now we should see government vehicles trying to help people, even if it is free of charge. Another challenge.
Let me ask you, please, kindly, because you said something that is very important. The fuel price in Uganda has gone up by 10 shillings from March.
Yes.
What's the difference between our prices from March to now? The Kenyan prices.
The Kenyan prices is around 40.
Around
is it 40? Let me just confirm.
And are we still, the fuel we are consuming today, when did we purchase it?
I think according to EPRA, they're saying that fuel came 30 days. That's why they review the 30 days. But another recommendation I would give to EPRA is that they need...
Before we recommend,
yes,
Uganda is a locked country.
Yes.
They get their fuel through us.
Yes.
But their fuel is cheaper. Okay.
So they've gotten their fuel through us, but they're still purchasing. They're using their fuel they bought in March. So probably they're using the prices of March.
So you're saying that it's possible that it'll be more expensive as they go ahead?
Exactly. If you look at Ethiopia right now, kerosene is going at 330. Ethiopia kerosene 1 month ago was 150. So if you look at that dynamic, there's a lot of things that play. There's a time I was telling people, we have very many vehicles compared to Uganda, and they were joking. Let me give you the data.
And that makes the fuel, that justifies the fuel price hiking?
Now, let me give you the figures. Now, assuming you are a seller of fuel, and you have two countries to pick where you're going to sell your fuel. In Kenya, we consume 16 million liters of both kerosene, diesel, and petrol, while Uganda, that is per day, while Uganda consumes 7 million.
Courtesy of the vehicles.
Yes.
And how about the industrial
share? And then the reasons they are giving for the high consumption of fuel in Kenya, of course, Siongamia consume that fuel. It is vehicles, it is machines, etc. So when I was telling people that Uganda, their prices might be cheaper compared to us, that is one of the facts, because they are saying we are consuming more because we have higher vehicles, we are consuming more because of a larger number of industries.
The number of vehicles, I just want to correct something here so that we don't get on the wrong footing. The number of vehicles or the avenues for consumption of fuel is not a determinant factor of the price.
It is a determinant factor.
Not in this case.
And let me give you another factor. Uganda does not price their fuel like we do. You see, for us, it is the government through EPRA that is deciding how much you'll sell. For them, they let the oil companies themselves compete amongst themselves. So the companies will always put their prices a bit lower. So
Let's debate.
But let me land my point.
Let's debate from this premise. Just hold on. Let's debate from this premise so that we make sure that we're doing so in fact. That the landed cost of fuel in Kenya is 117 shillings.
Yes.
Every other shilling that then determines the price is taxes and levies.
I agree.
In the case that we are speaking of right now,
yes,
in order for us to compare apples and oranges, which is very difficult to do, a determinant factor for the price that is at the pump is not the number of vehicles on the road.
I will tell you why.
Okay.
I will tell you why it is a factor in just 30 seconds so that I also allow my sister. If we are having people consume 16 million while the other country is consuming 7 million, if you are a supplier, that means the demand of fuel in Kenya is higher than the demand of fuel in Uganda. I was in Uganda for 1 week for a training. Traveling from Kampala to Jinja, we took 5 hours, 2 hours of traveling, 3 hours on traffic. So for them, their matatu is actually boda boda. It is not even the vehicles. But for us here, we are consuming. You might not agree, but if you look at the factors that they have given there,
I need us to be. This is the thing.
Of course, but let me just land my point. Okay. If you're going to compare the prices of fuel with Kenya and Uganda, because that is what the people in opposition are talking about, you need to bear in mind that we have a higher economy, that we are consuming more fuel than them, and the pricing is always about the demand.
Okay, thank you. I need to say this because it's very important for us to say. When we look at global determinants of price, right now there are 3 countries on the globe for whose fuel prices is determined by the number of people they have as per their population. Those 3 countries are India, China, and Thailand. The world trade-off takes those countries into consideration, and the prices that they give them are predetermined, negotiated prices. They are able to do that because of the number of people they have, so that they can negotiate based on their populations. Now let us debate from that point of view, that when you go and you say we are buying fuel depending on the oil cartels and those who sell, you don't go and say Kenya has more people, so can we have a lower price. It doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. So this is globally, and that's how it happens on Earth.
But that's a factor also that people need to consider.
Let's take it in from you. We're looking at a political situation that has arisen from fuel prices that have gone higher, and there's some political undertones that come into play. How did you assess the situation coming in from this week?
Thank you again for having me. I would like to first of all say that it is sad that our country runs on fuel, and we have a regime that is particularly not interested in considering the fact that the economy of this nation runs on that. And that is why they were comfortable allowing 2 days of total shutdown, courtesy of lack of movement for Kenyans. And what I interpret this as, in comparison to Alionya, is fuel, like you have said, is determined by taxes and the state of our infrastructure. And the levies that are placed on our fuel are quite high, because when this government came into office, there was a fuel subsidy program which they conveniently eliminated, and they also conveniently rose the road maintenance levy from 18 shillings to 25 shillings, which is a rise of 7 shillings. Then they went ahead to securitize the 7 shillings to pay pending bills. They took a loan of 175 billion on the 7 shillings, and they use it to pay pending bills to contractors on the road, and they go again to conform to IMF rules that say that there has to be VAT on fuel, which rose from 8% to 16%. So if you take these factors into consideration, you have the people telling the government that we really cannot afford a raise of 46 shillings on diesel, because diesel is practically what affects our factors of production. Goods are transported, labor is transported, so and manufacturers actually depend on diesel for this. So what is the consequence of this? It is a rise in the cost of living to the common Mwananchi. So the way I'm looking at it is this government is between a rock and a hard place, because it's either they please the people and they let down the puppet masters, or they please the puppet masters and they anger the people. And at this point, the government has chosen to please the puppet masters by raising the cost of fuel. And the president said that we shall have 3 months of relief when he brought down the 16% to the 8%. And then mid this month, we hear a hike of 46 shillings. There is also a factor to consider that the International Energy Agency has flagged down Kenya as one of the countries that is doing the least to conserve their fuel and their energy. We have countries like Tanzania who are telling their government employees that they will now have to carpool using a bus to go to work. We have countries like Mozambique and Senegal that are giving people work from home and school, reduced school going schedules for the children so as to reduce the amount of fuel that they're using. But in Kenya, we have a deputy president who is using 8 million on flights on a daily basis, and he comes out and tells us bei ya mafuta haiwezi shuka. We have a president who is traveling on a private jet. We have a CS of Interior who's coming to tell us that fuel prices and the anger in the people is courtesy of tribalism, and the fact that a Kalenjin president is in office and the next day he flies in a chopper. So we are really not taking any measures to conserve the little fuel that we have. As a matter of fact, we are using more.
I mean, Alionya, I want to look at the issue that you brought up with regard to how we consume our fuel. Granted, Kenya could have a lot of more vehicles. But if you go back to basics of law that govern the setting of price in the country, it is all enshrined in the law. And you look at different levies that have been put down there, and you have VAT, you have excess duty, you have road maintenance levy, petroleum development levy, radio development levy, petroleum regulatory levy. Everything else has a price tag and a percentage that end up in determining the cost of fuel in Kenya. You compare that with Uganda, and all we see that is there in Uganda is they have around 4 levies pretty much that go into that. So our fuel in Kenya is not expensive because we have more vehicles. No. Our fuel is expensive because of the levies that the government has put in there that has resulted to high fuel prices. Where one now asks the question, if that is the position, then is government knowing that it is because of its decision that Kenyans are suffering today? And are they even listening?
Thank you. I acknowledge your perspective that our taxes they actually accumulate to around 70 shillings plus on top of now the landing costs. That we have to agree. But look at one of the levies, the road maintenance levy that we add on top of the fuel price. In Uganda, there are no even roads to maintain in the first place. And I'm speaking because I'm speaking because I have been there. So we have to look at these taxes and look at which taxes can we forego for the next 3 months, because we don't know when will this war end. So a better argument from the opposition, I would presume, is when they tell us kindly, like from the VAT, if it is at 8%, can we go down to 4%? From the other, the I don't know, import declaration, whatever, can we forgo them for like 4 months until when this war will end? That's a better discussion. But if you look at those levies and the levies in Uganda, and I'm speaking because I've been in Uganda, mahali ambapo, a distance from like here Nairobi to Nakuru, they use motorcycles like now the matatus we use in Kenya. We can't compare those two countries, for heaven's sake.
So we shouldn't compare them then.
we actually shouldn't compare them, because
Right.
when you are saying that fuel is cheaper there and why is it expensive to us, now you ask yourself, how many industries are there? How many machines are they using, or are they using in their industries to even consume the diesel and the petrol? How many vehicles? This is a discussion you don't want to agree, but I'm speaking as an economist who has sat in class. The demand and supply curve affects the pricing of anything. Right now, the demands of Arsenal jerseys is high. I mean, the pricing of Arsenal jerseys will be more expensive than Man U. But you can let that land. The greatest recommendation I'll give the government, and I know they're going to make a press, I think, at around 8. So we are hoping that by 8, the matatus will now say it is not 7. Because 7 days, it's a panic to parents, because next week, people have to go to school, people have to do exams, like the universities had to postpone their exams. So I am hoping that at 8, the president and the people in the matatu sector will now come and say, probably we have lowered the prices further and the strike is no longer on. People will now go their duties.
Are Kenyans
normally.
blind to President William Ruto's statement while Deputy President, when he stood on a podium and told Kenyans the reason why fuel is expensive in the country is because of the taxes? At that time, he was objecting President.
He actually said that there are cartels at the Ministry of Energy.
It is him who said, all we need to do is to remove all these taxes and make fuel cheaper for Kenyans. He said that. Are Kenyans blind to that?
Kenyans are not blind to it.
So we agree that fuel is expensive because of taxes then?
Exactly. And that's why I've said we need to look at the taxes you have mentioned and ask ourselves, which ones can we forgo for the next 3 months, for the next 4 months, as we await and pray that the war will come to an end. But it is unfortunate we have an opposition that says, no, the Iran war, we cannot blame it on fuel. So they're using the same tactics that William Samoei Ruto was using that time when we were selling Baba. And when Baba was telling people, fuel is high because of this and that, because of the Iran war. When Uhuru was coming and telling people, me, I'm not in Ukraine, I'm not the person responsible. That time, blame has shifted to the others. But now, as someone who did not vote for President William Ruto, I will now ask him to be objective enough to ensure they offer relief. Let me give you an example of what Singapore has done. Do you know Singapore has not lowered their fuel prices? They have said lowering fuel prices is actually salvaging the rich people. Because in Kenya, someone like Onyango Tate, someone like Rapudo, someone like Jimmy Wanjigi, they don't even know how much fuel per liter, because for them they fuel their Bentleys at full tanks. Yeah? But what Singapore has done is that it has given relief to taxi drivers, it has given relief to school buses, it has given relief to public transport. So there's a mechanism they're working in to ensure that you are probably not paying the same prices. If you come, because they're saying if you are relieving even the rich and the poor, we are actually favoring the rich, while we are, mismanaging the young people. So countries have taken different measures, and I hope our country will take a measure by 8 a.m.
Okay, and allow me to ask whether in Singapore they run a private public transport system.
There is.
Yes, they
do. There are buses.
Are they private or
And
publicly run by the government?
But we also have the taxis. We have the government.
No, I'm talking
bus.
about the public system.
Yes.
The mass public system in Singapore, according to you, is it run by government or privately, like the matatus we have in Kenya?
It's a combination.
It's a combination.
But
so in Kenya, we don't have that. The other question I would like to ask you, from the economics...
But we can have it.
But we don't.
We don't.
But we need to have it.
That's why we cannot subsidize. That's why
we need to have it.
But we don't have it as of now.
And
the other question...
Alionya, hold on. What we're going to do... No. What we are going... Excuse me. What we are going to do is allow him to ask the question, and then you can answer it.
Yes.
So that we can have...
You cited economics, which is a good thing, because this is an economic conversation. How do you justify that we have securitization already on one of the levies in the fuel pricing that makes it impossible for us to lower the fuel, the pump price today? Because that securitization has been used to secure loans that if we dare to take it off, the costing of the fuel will be defaulting on the loans that are definitely ODS as of today. How do you justify that that the Kenyans are in pain because of loans that have been taken, and one of the guarantees we offered was securitization based on the consumption of fuel. Now that we have a crisis, we cannot lower the prices. How do you explain that, economically speaking?
We can't say that we cannot lower. I believe the government will do something. You had mentioned something before I respond to your question about subsidy. People need to remember that during Uhuru's time when there was subsidies, you will go to petrol station and you will not find fuel.
That's not
we
true.
also need to understand that one of the problems we have is even the suppliers of fuel themselves. Because even when the fuel was going at 190, there are some petrols that were hoarding fuel, expecting that when the prices will be adjusted on 14th, they will sell it at a higher prices. So the concern of subsidy is something that we need to discuss objectively, where even the suppliers will have the Kenya's heart and say, if we will be subsidizing, and I believe that would be the last resort, if we'll be going into subsidizing, they will offer us fuel at the agreed price. They will not hoard it expecting that the prices will go up. Now, on your question on the securitization, I believe that is not the only tax. Yeah, we can look at the other taxes that we can do without. And I believe
such as from the economics, because you said, and I like what you said, that you understand the economics. You spoke about demand and supply. You spoke about market controls. So what can we deal with?
Now, for the securitization, I don't think you have to blame this government only, because we have been taking loans. All the other governments that have been placed have been taking loans, and they have securitized it for us to pay those loans. There's the concern of the odious debt that you have talked about. That is, in fact, I would wish that the 2027 ballot question be about the public debt. We need to audit some of these debts. If we get whether they were taken through this regime or the previous regimes, that debts were taken, but they didn't serve the purpose to which they were taken, then those debts should not be paid. But now I'm asking you, apart from that levy that is being, cut to ensure that the securitization that you're talking about, which other levy can we actually do without?
That's what you're supposed to suggest.
Yes,
that's what I'm asking.
And that's
from where
that's
you
why I've said economists will now sit down and say, because for securitization you can say, okay, look, we need to pay debts, so we can allow this to go on. But we have the road maintenance levy, we have the import declaration, whatever we have, and many more. Now we ask ourselves, can we do without this? But for the securitization, I believe we need to pay loans. This country was amongst the few countries that were written as countries who might have defaulted as of 2022. So any intervention that the government is doing to ensure that we don't default on our debts is something we should welcome. But the concern you are raising about odious debt is a concern we need to be having as a country. And both parliament should be held liable because they were not there to speak for us and say we don't need this loan because it is not going to serve, or this loan came and it didn't serve the development purpose it was supposed to serve.
Sophie, when we look at taxes and what they're supposed to do actually is that when the government collects taxes, in order for the lights to be on, literally, and the water to be running, that's why you collect taxes. If you're going to develop, you don't develop from taxation. That's clear across economies. Can we say that you can see, let's just take the taxes and levies that are on fuel, whether you want to talk about road development levy, you want to talk about all of these other things. Do you see the applicability of these taxes on keeping the lights on and the water running?
Absolutely no, because the taxes in this country are technically, if you check, there is a budget making process that is going on right now. And if you check...
Oh, that's already done. By the time the finance bill has come out, the process is done.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you check what money is going to do, it is going into paying debt. The consolidated fund, the money that is there is going into payment of debt. It is going into payment of our overhead expenditures, which is salaries and China Mandazi. It's going to funding counties. It is not actually the amount of money that is left to fund the basic need of the common Mwananchi is very little. If we check, contrary to what Alionya is saying, Alionya has a first class in Kiswahili and Njeri. She does not she cannot answer your question.
Can I respond to that?
I didn't talk when you were talking.
You'll have your time.
She answer your economic question because she has no knowledge of the economic scenarios in our country. On the road maintenance levy, the work of that is to maintain the road networks of our country. But even if you go into the city of Nairobi today, the number of potholes exceed the number of, like, venye barabara inaka, it's more of a pothole than the road. So when they took this securitization on this levy, it was for paying pending bills to contractors, not to do what actually they're supposed to do and not to pay any loan. I've heard you say there's also the railway development levy on that. If you check what the government wants to do with that levy, they want to securitize 96 shillings out of the 100 shillings in order to go and build the SGR that is supposed to move from, I think, Kisumu to Malaba or Naivasha to Malaba, something. So they are cognizant of the fact that they are short of money to do any form of development. So they need to borrow on a certain, the levy is continuous. Tunanunua mafuta all the time. So wanajua, what they're actually doing is taking a loan on future payments on this fuel. If you check the situation that we are in, let's go back to where this started. Immediately there was the Strait of Hormuz closure. You could see the government all of a sudden coming out to say, I will quote Mbadi in verbatim, saying that he predicts that this fuel crisis will be almost similar to the COVID-19 crisis that affected us in this country. And true to his words, less than 2 months later, we are exactly where it's at. It is not surprising that immediately the Kenya Pipeline Company was privatized. It is immediately when we have these problems. It is not surprising that it is known that EPRA does not determine fuel prices in Kenya using the algorithm or using AI. It is mtu amekaa hapo akadecide tunaweza shukisha 10 bob tupandisha ingine na 38 bob tuone kama tunaweza balance hii math. But if you check what they did, the cumulative amount of money that fuel was costing before this 10 shilling and 38 shilling difference was 607. Now the total cost of all our fuel products is 637. So in short, what the government has done, it has still increased its profit margin on every single litre that is being sold, whether on petrol, on diesel, or on kerosene. Look at the number of Starbucks petrol stations that are coming up all over this country. I'll give you the homework to go and check who owns Starbucks in this country. Check which companies are inside the G2G deal in this country. Then you will be able to understand who exactly is benefiting from this crisis. The 3 gentlemen who were caught during the Easter time in this scandal with 500 million shillings in their houses. What happened? They were given ni bail ama ni bond, and now they're scot-free. And they orchestrated the biggest scandal. We lost 12 billion, and now we are losing more. The person who is ending up suffering is the Kenyan Mwananchi. And the sad part is, Kenya is such a hegemony in the East African community. We are supposed to be the country that holds the region together. We have everything that we need for Kenyans to thrive. But we have a corrupt government that is losing 3 billion a day. And if you accumulate the amount of money that is lost in a year, it comes to around 1 trillion. She has spoken about odious debt. We are meant to borrow 1.1 trillion in this financial year. But we are losing 1 trillion to corruption. It does not take an economist to understand that if you close the loopholes of corruption, then we will not need to borrow. Look at we are going to borrow 1 trillion domestically. Who is meant to benefit from that domestic borrowing? Who are the owners of banks in this country? The orchestrators of the same cartels that were spoken about in the previous regime, this current regime. The president now owns a bank in this country. Syrian Bank, he is the owner of that bank. If we are going to borrow 1 trillion domestically, of course, Syrian Bank is going to contribute to that 1 trillion. So he is going to benefit from the interest. If you check the amount of money we are going to pay to debt, 2.5 trillion. Out of it, 1 trillion is the principal, 1.5 trillion is interest. So if we are paying 1.5 trillion to interest, of which most is going to domestic creditors, who is set to benefit, the same people who are in power telling us that they are the change that we need, they are the people who know that the president has the audacity to tell us that the president of Ethiopia came to him to ask for economic advice. Yet fuel, contrary to what she has said, petrol and diesel in Ethiopia is the cheapest in the region. Electricity in Ethiopia is costing less than 1 Kenya shillings today. So the only thing that we match
per unit is
per unit. That is what we are saying. The cost of electricity in Kenya per unit is close to 20-something shillings. So if Ethiopia was stable, they did not have war, they did not have the internal conflicts that they're facing, they would be way ahead of us, because the people in Ethiopia have been shielded in terms of cost of production. But our budget for defense in Kenya is the same as the budget for defense in Ethiopia, yet Kenya is not at war.
All right. Now,
explain.
As young people, as the youth, because this is a youth perspective session today, and it's interesting how you have very divergent opinions around the same issue we're talking about today.
When your mouth is full, of course you cannot understand what the common Mwananchi is going through.
Oh, well, the reality is all this fuel hiking is affecting the cost of living, regardless of the political divide anybody assumes.
True.
When bus fare hikes go up, everybody has to toll. They have to pay. When cost of production goes up, that cost has to be passed on to the consumer. So, as a youth today, people may enjoy assuming certain political positions, advancing certain, agendas. But you have to go down to the nitty-gritties and ask yourself, today we are guided by a constitution that says the government that we, the people, form ought to protect the interest of Kenyans.
Yes.
From where you stand, Roseline, do you feel that this government is clearly securing and protecting the interest of Kenyans? Ordinary Kenyans who pay the taxes, who toil to make sure they have food on the table, who have to make sure that kids are getting to school on time, in time, and who have to make sure that the country is still running. Do you feel the interest of Kenyans are being well catered for by this government that is supposed to regulate? Because whenever we have a disaster found is easily and quickly found. Whenever we have drought, we see disbursement of food and other resources to try and save lives. The worst economic crime we can commit is to make the cost of living so unbearable that people start now reducing on the basics that they do need to survive. And I think that is where we are. What is your opinion?
Before I respond to that, this young girl has just looked at me and told me that I have a first class.
I bet I'm way older than you.
In CRE and
let's keep it kosher.
In CRE and Kiswahili.
Do you?
My first class honors degree is something should die not having, but I have a first class honors in geography and business. The business units I did accounting. I accounted for liabilities. I accounted for assets.
Okay.
The economics that I did macroeconomics and microeconomics. I did geography. And in geography, there is a town we study, Thika town, where she comes from. And I want to highlight to you 3 projects in Thika town.
I need you to, because of time,
I know she can't get away with something.
But because this is a conversation
in 1 minute.
No, we don't have that. I would like you to look at the issue that has been raised, because we can understand the project that you did in Thika and how that can explain your expertise. We get it, but let's focus on the issue, please.
So Thika Super Highway was built with 32 billion, funded by loans and taxpayers' money. We had a housing project called Makongeni Housing Board. For the Thika Super Highway, this was in 2012. It was finished in 2012. Makongeni Housing Project in 1970, funded by taxpayer money, 50 million by that time. We did Thika Bypass in 2021, 1.8 billion, to reduce traffic and very many other things. And I want to tell Sophie here, because she's the largest person to say Ruto must go. Even us, we want projects to be taken to our region. their town, Thika town, has grown because of the road networks that are there. And if this government will do anything to ensure that we also have roads that will reduce the traffic we have around Rironi, we appreciate it. If this government will do anything for us to also have SGR so that we don't only depend on the road transport, we will greatly appreciate it. We need to stop having double standards. If you look at those 3 projects, they were done when people from their community were in power. Now, my community from Bungoma, my community from Busia, my community from Kakamega, my community from Tanzoia should also benefit from projects that are funded by loans taken by government and also funded by taxpayers' money. In future, my community, the Luya community, will not only be housemaids, we will also be homeowners. In future, when my community has been developed through red networks, because when there's a road somewhere, that's why Thika has grown to where it is. Bidco can go to and invest there. Del Monte can go and invest there. If we have road networks in Bungoma and Busia, you'll not see us here in Nairobi being your watchmen. Even as we will be investors of homes. We will not only be shamba boys, even as we will be owners of this land. And so I am telling her, because she's looking down upon my first class owners, something she will not have, even if she lived.
Okay, so now let's answer the question. Yeah.
Now let us go to the question of whether this government is doing anything to cushion Kenyans, that's securing the interest of Kenyan. I would say one, as someone who is witnessing the construction of the Rironi Summit, that is an interest to us.
Does that lower the cost of living? The issue is on the cost of living.
Yes, I will say to the development of SGR. Let me tell you, if Bungoma developed to where Njeri has developed, if Busia developed to where Muranga has developed, you will not see us here. We will be in our counties because investors will be there to create jobs for us.
But Rose, look, wait,
now,
there's
a question of cost of living.
Hold up.
How much is the price of Bunga? Hold up. How much is the price
Let me
of
answer
Bunga?
you. Let me answer you.
Yes.
When we say if Bungoma develops, that's a very futuristic tense.
Exactly.
We are talking of right here and now.
Are we saying intention?
No, it's not about intention. It's about action.
Now, leave that aside. I've asked you, what is the price of Unga as of now?
I asked you the question about the cost of living. And the purpose of government is to make sure that people receive the services that they receive, affordable, quality, and accessible.
Yes.
We are talking about the fuel price hiking, which definitely is going to and already is affecting the cost of living.
Exactly.
That's where we are. My question to you is, do you feel this government is responsible enough and responsive enough to the needs of the Kenyans
Before the Iran war, the price of a gas, something that has been controversial for me, was 800 shillings. Before the Iran war, that means the cost of Unga was at 140. In the next few months, we don't know that.
So what was the price of gas today from 800 to?
Where I refill, they've told me they're now refilling at 1050.
So is that because, one, Kenya has a bigger population? Because if you were to go by your fuel argument...
No, should we blame the government for the Iran war?
Well, should we blame the fuel prices on the population of Kenyans?
Are they doing something? Yes.
No, they're
not. Are they going to respond? No, they're not. When the president removed the VAT from 18 to 8%, and we are hoping today that at 8, they will have done something to ensure that the matatu sector does not go to the streets again. Is this government doing something? You must say yes.
No, I must not. I must not.
So what have they not done?
They are doing exactly nothing. Answer for me,
Sophie. I have, as you respond, right?
Yes.
As you respond. We've talked about taxes, and if you look at how much has been collected from all the levies that we talk about, is 338.3 billion shillings. That is the amount of taxes and levies that have been collected from fuel throughout the year. And you look at what 338 billion shillings is, that is SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi. That is the amount of taxes that we have collected from fuel. Now, we talk about road maintenance levy, a petroleum development levy, we talk about railway development levy. One asks the question, has your road been maintained? I say mine has not.
No.
Have we seen any development in the petroleum sector? Because as we talk about fuel, one says the only way to secure the people of Kenya is by either having doing what Dangote is doing or having reserves in the country that would cushion us in the years to come. Because we talk about Singapore. That's exactly what Singapore has done to a point that it is able not to transfer that burden to its people? Are we seeing value for our taxes, especially in the fuel sector?
Absolutely no. And I would like to say that this government is doing absolutely nothing to shield the Kenyan monarchy, and that is very well displayed in the finance bill of 2026. You know, last year, when IMF brought their mission to Kenya, they said that they have to suspend their agreement with us because Kenya is corrupt, because Kenya is extravagant, we spend too much money, and our debt books look bad because we have a debt of 12.8 trillion shillings where we stand today, and that is without factoring in securitization. It is without factoring in guaranteed and non-liability loans. It is without factoring in all the other Kinanyota fund that we have been given in the midst of that. So when they said that, then they gave specific recommendations as to what we should do in order to come back into a program with them, because the government is still seeking more funding from the IMF this financial year. So the IMF, amongst its recommendations, was we check our debt books, we do corruption analysis, and we convict corrupt people and try and get back our money. But the most important thing is they recommended an increase in consumption tax. What is consumption tax? It is excess duty, it is value-added tax, it is income tax. And if you check the finance bill of 2026, it is exactly what has been risen. You find rental tax on rental properties is moving from 7.5% to 10%. You find there are specific excess duties that are being placed on digital payment programs. There is duty being placed on our smartphones. So you, as a young person, you're trying to find a means of income online, but they are coming for the device that you're using to make that money. They are coming for the online platforms that you use to get that money sent to you. So what we are seeing is, right now, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 40% of Kenyans are living below the poverty line. 7 out of 10 of young people, a country with a median age of 19, are unemployed, and they have no hope of getting a job because government.
Can I interject there and ask then?
Yes.
That if we're talking about interventions to cushion people, one quick one would be intervene to lower the cost of fuel, whatever way you would need to do that. I mean, look at what countries did during COVID. With the UK, said they suspended a budget for a meantime and said, okay, let's actually put money in the hands of people since they can't move. What in Kenya would an intervention look like to cushion people? And I'd like to hear from both of you.
It's simple. Reduce
examples
our
of those,
expenditure. For instance, we are seeing the executive using 1 trillion on office supplies and expenditure. That is China mandazi, kalamu, karatasi, their movement. You find the president is moving from one place to another with a very large convoy of fuel guzzling vehicles. We are seeing them, the office of the deputy president, use 8 million on choppers every single day. If we can just have a government that decides, okay, for the remainder of the time that we're in government, we will sit in our offices and work, it will be a point. If we go for those cartels in that industry, then we go and say, you will not hoard fuel, because in the midst of this, we found that there are companies that have been hoarding fuel. As a matter of fact, when the CS went to where the oil is kept in Kenya, at that time when they were saying there's a shortage, they went and found there was actually no shortage. And people in Njeri, people in many places in Mount Kenya were going without fuel. It is for us to move away from grandiose projects like those that they are mentioning here. Like the president yesterday said that they will take a project that will cost billions to the coast, instead of focusing on developmental projects because you haven't developed for the past 4 years. Then spend this time trying to cushion Kenyans. Put fuel subsidies. It's not rocket science. And what we are saying as a generation is we are here for economic liberation, economic renaissance. So our conversations and our solutions and our fight is on economic liberation to especially the young people. And not the young people alone, because our parents are suffering. With a daily limit of 2,000 kwasha and you have cancer. The current budget right now has reduced the budget of chronic illnesses from 10 billion to 4 billion, a reduction of 6 billion. What is that telling you about the priorities of this government? But we are increasing the budget for defense with 50 billion. So what we are trying to say is their priorities are on looking for online people, those who are criticizing the government, but they can't look for the person who killed the women in Kware and the women who are being killed and the children who are disappearing today.
Our time runs out.
Just wrong.
I hear that. So, I mean, Roseline, if you were to say ways in which would cushion people, because we know what the security of the livelihoods of Kenyans is paramount constitutionally, what would you say would be two things that could be done that would actually show that this security is actually being achieved by cushioning Kenyans? What would be two things?
Thank you. You know, I'm shocked that she has mentioned some things on finance bill.
Two things, Roseline. Our time is running down. Two things.
Why do you allow her to mention other things?
I asked the question, she answered the question. I'm asking you a question.
Did you ask her about SHA?
We're arguing now and our time is running out. I'm asking you two things that would be done. Two things that would be done to cushion.
I am answering. She has said that the rental income in the current finance bill has been increased to 10%, which is false. I was expecting as a media house you would say that is not in the current finance bill. It has been retained at 7.5. Taxes on smartphones have been reduced from 55% to 25%. There are no taxes on money transfer. But because you're colluding, now you can't even say what is in the finance bill and what is not in the finance bill. That is very wrong. That is very wrong for a media house. The last thing, a recommendation that you're asking me, I cannot be careful. That I'm mentioning something.
You need to be factual, you know. It's not about being careful.
I'm being factual.
No.
Rental income, percentage in income.
I'll take your time and I'll tell people to come to the streets.
And I've told, and she's
get the numbers right.
She's saying,
all right, so what we're doing
should
now,
come to the streets. We reject fuel prices and Ruto must go.
So what we're doing now is that we had the recommendations and now we're at 8 o'clock. You see, this is the problem with time.
To do two things. He has mentioned about the taxes. So we can look at the taxes we can do without, or if we can go lower on the VAT tax. That's a good recommendation. The other thing is that EPRA needs now to be reviewing their prices in a span of maybe even 2 months, because that 1 month is too close. We are not even done yet with the Matatu strike. Date 14 will also be having another shock on how much pricing they'll be putting on fuel. Lastly, the government should come up with public transport in the Matatu industry so that in times of crisis, these industries can also cushion us. Lastly, they are saying that this government needs to stop development project. Rironi Mau Summit lazima itajengwa. SGR to Malaba lazima itajengwa. Mukitaka mujinyonge. Lakini.
All right, thank you very much. We want to say thank you, both of you, for coming into the studio this morning, Roseline and Sophie. At 8 o'clock. Good morning. Thank you very much.
Latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the news. I'm Sheila Tembor. Central Kenya is under scrutiny following a sharp rise in violence against children, with authorities reporting 372 cases between June 2025 and April this year. According to the Central Regional Administration Office, Njeri County recorded the highest number with 93 cases, followed by Kiambu with 87, Murang'a 81 cases, Kirinyaga 75 cases, and Nyandarua 36 cases.
From 2024 to date, from the Kenya Police Service, peke yake za Njeri, defilement 154. Gang defilement now ni rape 26. Gang rape 10. Attempted rape 7. Indecent assault 36. Incest 3. Sexual assault 23. Murder related to GBV 16 hapa Njeri. Threatening to kill domestically 71.
During a stakeholders meeting bringing together representatives from the 5 counties, officials also revealed 531 cases of sexual and gender-based violence were reported in the region over the same period. The Ministry of Gender and Children Services has linked the trend to rising alcohol and drug abuse. It says it will intensify a crackdown on pubs and entertainment outlets accused of selling illicit alcohol within the next 30 days.
It is creeping back under the guise of culture.
FGM is not culture, it is mutilation. It is, I would say, torture. You are torturing women. I know some of you know the people who are behind this, and you know we have a law against it.
Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga has written an open letter to Siaya Governor James Orengo expressing disappointment over recent remarks she says caused her pain and humiliation. In a statement, Wanga said the comments highlighted the challenges women continue to face in leadership, including ridicule, intimidation, and gender-based criticism. She described Orengo as a respected senior leader and mentor, adding that the remarks were especially hurtful because she regarded him as a father figure. Despite the disagreement, Wanga said she has chosen forgiveness and remains open to dialogue and cooperation on matters affecting the community and the country. Detectives from the ESCC have arrested a former employee of the Office of the Auditor General over alleged use of forged KCSE certificate to secure employment. The suspect, Mercy Akinyi Ofua, is accused of presenting fake academic documents allegedly from Umina Secondary School during her job application. The ODPP has approved charges including forgery, uttering false documents, and fraudulent acquisition of over 5.8 million shillings in salaries earned during her employment. She was released on a cash bail of 50,000 shillings pending her court appearance. The ESCC says it will also pursue recovery of salaries and benefits allegedly obtained through the fake qualifications as part of a wider crackdown on academic fraud in public service. And that's the news. I'm Sheila Tembor.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
I am also a publicly elected official.
Okay.
My salary is paid by your taxes.
Yes.
So if you need me to answer questions, we will not run away from you.
Asante
We will
sana.
always be here.
The government itself is engaging in corrupt practices. That the government itself deliberately schemes to influence through bribery members of parliament.
You pay for a passport online. Alafu you're told there are no booklets.
I rebuke matters corruption because corruption has brought this country to its knees.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Members of parliament, they go to settle, they just promised they get given tea, mandazi, and 100,000. That's not development.
External borrowing, 589 billion. Are we on the same page? What did parliament pass?
If anything happens to our president today, God forbid, that man would become president. Na yeye ndio alilenga hizo stories za Shakahola.
The real thing is our constitution has only one person who is accountable to us.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Baba should disown these experts and they say they went there on the because he keep on telling us that these experts just you came from Dubai and you found them they already at State House looking for jobs.
Government has to has to introduce austerity measures. It's something that this government and the previous ones have not been able to do in this country. We've talked about it so many times.
And really, I think you have seen the modus operandi of William Samoei Ruto since he came in. It's just showbiz.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Every time he kept on saying he wants a vibrant opposition.
How does it make sense that public money has been used already and then they dare to sell it back to you? Why are they not giving them for free?
That's how broken we are. That's how broken we are.
They are being sent home now for fees. They're going to fail to prepare. We are compromising the futures of these children.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
At 8 minutes after 8, a very good morning to you, and we continue our conversations this morning, allowing us to look at what the week looked like in review and also then continue debate. I'm going to say that all debates, whichever way you look at them, are healthy and necessary for us to have conversations on certain levels. It will bring out certain things, or it will extend certain things, or it will expand certain ideas, and that you can learn something regardless of. So we continue them no matter what. We continue on this hour, and we're going to I remind you that our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X this morning, and also for us to understand that as we continue in our debates and our conversations, that we want to make sure that we're speaking in truth. Public appointments versus professional qualifications is something that we're looking at now, and I know that the words have been flying around like experts and things like this, but if you're able to manage an office, then is the expertise required? If you're able to manage an office, is expertise required? Expertise like what you go to school to learn and then practice and then, hone a skill. We're talking about that today with Daniel Orogo, who's a political analyst and is already in the hot seat this morning. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yeah, thank you for being here this morning.
Good.
Soon to be joined by Stella Gara, who is a governance and security analyst, and we'll talk about all of this with her as both of you as we join this morning. Dennis is going to share today's proverb with you. We'd love to get your interpretation of it.
Our proverb today comes from Gabon, former French colony, and the country is rich in resources, including natural and nuclear reactor. Just God decided, Gabon, chukua hiyo. As others struggle to get uranium to develop that, them they just have it. But the proverb that we get from the country today, a canoe does not know who is king. A canoe does not know who is king. How would you interpret it? And canoe nile row your boat, that one.
A canoe doesn't know who is
king.
Well, I think that could be interpreted to me. It's like, as you row through, probably you might not get a clear understanding of how the whole view of your pavilion is ahead, or rather, what does it take for one to be crowned in that particular pace of race? So I think it's quite difficult in that point of uncertainty to clearly know what happens at the end of the day. What is the larger picture? What is the win like? Because in the midst of that particular storm, in the midst of that particular rowing, you really never know, what comes out at the end, or what is the bigger picture, or what is the crowning at the end of the rowing, rather.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well said, well put, and I must say that lapel looks.
So, when we look at appointments, even as we start this conversation up at this time, when we look at appointments and we look at qualifications, should there be public appointments versus professional qualification? We know what is out there in the public arena about whether or not folks are getting positions based on the position that they took politically. Should the two intermarry, or should we say they must work at parallels completely?
Well, I think as I was brainstorming about this, throughout yesterday, today in the morning, I am conflicted in a sense that it also brings into a conversation whether leaders are made or whether leaders are born. That sometimes, do we have those inherent qualities, that definitely pushes us to certain political, to certain leadership position or certain appointment positions. And as I was looking at this, we have probably seen people who have ascended into political position or positions that are very important, and yet they probably might not have gone through the real channel, of being socialized or being educated or going through a mentorship through that. You have seen a number of, leaders globally who thrived on skills and, who thrived on different categories and knowledge, not necessarily taken through, those rigorous points of getting towards those career positions. But again, in the thinkers of our constitutional order, or the thinkers of the makers of our constitution, might have had something in their mind. And, they might have said that for you or for a certain leader to ascend into this political position or this appointment position in public service, for example, that the qualities are so in this, and one must go through, education, one must meet certain merits. So, yeah, we have a thin line of, with the experience that people who have actually thrived in their positions without necessarily going through those certain, rigorous process or educational process or criteria, but still thrive in their position. Yet, we also have those who had, gone rigorously through those processes and have gone through, academics and learned through this position. But once they are sent to this position, we've not been able to get, quality positions. How many, for example, governors do we have in this country that, are technocrats, for example? Are qualified or, are merit-based. But if you look at their track record, there is little to show, But instead also, on the other side, how many of us do we have leaders who did not go through serious mentorship and training in this position, but yet have really delivered on them? So it's a matter of, conversation and a point of conflict. But then we cannot certainly say that indeed there's no clear path or clear way to this. Yes.
Okay. Sophie's getting, Stella's getting seated, but we're going to throw the question at her. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Great.
Yes? We were just hearing that it's necessary to have a clear demarcation between political reward and professional qualifications when it comes to positions that require movement, implementation, especially in a country setting. What are your thoughts around this?
And our law has actually anticipated that and provided for ensuring that there's first of all merit in appointment, but also making sure that the different people who are appointed in different positions actually qualify for the work that they're selected to do. Indeed, there's a remnant of people within our government and within our politics who still believe in servicing patronage networks, and so they will find their friends and want to appoint them anywhere as long as an opportunity is available, just so that they can reward themselves. I think some of the examples we have seen of the appointments that have been quashed by our courts, it's not something that started now. I think we saw this all the way from the time of Kibaki, when there were some appointments that were actually quashed by the courts, and then eventually they had to go back to the drawing board. It's just that our politicians need to wake up from the old way of thinking, where they can appoint just anybody on any position for the sake of servicing patronage networks, forgetting that there are certain tasks that require specific qualifications, specific skills to be able to accomplish.
You look at appointments, and I'm just going to go for the cabinet secretary positions that we've seen happen in the country. And the requirements is one needs to be apolitical, needs to be bipartisan, and needs to be a technocrat in the department or agency within which they're being employed. Why? So that they're able to apply their total expertise in that sector. I'm just going to go for the jugular, for example, and I'm going to compare. If you look at, say, other jurisdictions, if someone is cabinet secretary, minister for health, they are a health expert, someone who can even stand and call a president, announce to the nation that a president has died, because they were the first responders and can confirm that to a country. We look at our situation today. We have cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Health who can they even inject anything? Can they hold a scalpel or differentiate the same, And we look at how this individual is coming to manage professionals in that sector, and they do not have the gusto to do that. How does that then affect the provision of services to wananchi?
Dennis, why are you doing that to us? Why you send us to the Ministry of Health? Are you really trying to depress us this morning? I'm glad you went there, because that's one of the state departments that has one of the most unqualified people in office.
You don't say.
I don't say, and I just want to throw a spanner in the works. There are other state departments that have very qualified people, like Treasury, and the individual who is qualified for the job is busy politicking. He's busy running around getting crowned to be the kingpin. He's busy running around to focusing on political party business instead of focusing on the work he's supposed to do. He has been reminded by the media, by citizens of Kenya who care about how he conducts himself in public office. And I guess he's asking us, Mutadu. I think we need to begin focusing on how that impacts on, first of all, service delivery to Kenyans, because it definitely stands in the way of delivery of quality services. It stands in the way of the amount of time that the public servants have to actually deliver the service they're supposed to be delivering. And sometimes it also stands in the way of the amount of time they have to pay attention to what they need to pay attention to. I would not be surprised to discover that the CS Wandai has been making the mistakes he's been making because he's busy balancing politics and something else. I mean, we truly need to have a conversation about our public servants, how they conduct themselves, and whether we are going to be serious about Chapter 6 of the Constitution, or we just ignore it altogether and decide that we want something different.
Well, I also agree. I think that, you've alluded to the fact that we had, we onboarded the old manners we had before we had the new Constitution. And, the history can really teach us some things that during post-independent and throughout the regime before we got the Constitution, the political nature that we had is that a president would campaign, and once they win the seat and once the government wins the seat, he or she has all this baggage behind him that he would want to satisfy post-election. And the only way to do this was possibly to look at which particular positions are there. Once someone ascends into position and would want to reward, those who are politically, loyal to him. And, we were oblivious that once we passed the new Constitution, there were certain demands from that Constitution that compels, government of the day or appointing authority to observe certain qualifications or certain merits that should be considered in different political or rather appointment positions. Case that we have is in public service. And I think we have a problem in public service because the transition did not provide that we offload some of these particular baggage we had in public service. And therefore, you are looking at a situation where a government of the day would look at, okay, now that I get into this position, who is here that is left that has not been rewarded? And you can have a case that we had in CAS case, for example, that we had, that the court, spells itself, and you could see a number of people that were sent packing because the president wanted to get off this, to get rid of all this, baggage on his shoulders by just appointing people to unconstitutional positions. So, like Stella have said, the remnants that we are still having is what is still haunting us. That until yesterday, we are seeing one of the appointment in the Kenya Revenue Authority, an individual, that was not really given a position in form of legal, that was followed in a legal way, that did not meet merit, and that did not qualify the statutory requirement of the law, including the Constitution, violation of Chapter 10 of this Constitution, and Public Service Act. So, 2 days ago, we had Aisha Juma's case as well, where even the court just pronounced itself after a petition was signed. And so many cases that we are still having. So, I think it's I agree with Stella that could we have really a conversation of, as we head to this particular, regime transition each and every time, what happens to a head of state or an appointing authority, with regards to giving political positions based on merit. I'm not saying it's bad actually to apportion. Like we've said, we have people who are qualified and people who can lead that position. But in doing so, there are things that should be considered. There are merit, there are constitution, and there are legality issues that we should look at across board. I think this will guide us as a country.
What is wrong, if anything, with appointing people who supported you to positions of execution?
I'm glad you asked, because even as Rogo was speaking, one of the things I was thinking about is that everybody who's appointing has to appoint from amongst their friends in their circle. And so servicing patronage networks may not necessarily be the main problem, but servicing patronage networks and appointing individuals who are not competent for the task that they are being appointed for is extremely problematic. I mean, if Orogo and I formed government in the coming days, it would be very easy for us to determine that the three of you may leave Spice and become part of our communications team, press service. And there will be nothing wrong with that because you're qualified for what we are appointing you for. But the moment you pick an individual who has no clue about what they need to be doing in the committee you're appointing them, you have picked Gaucho from wherever you've picked him from, and you want Kenyans to believe that he's going to serve the purposes of the platform you have appointed him on. I think that's problematic. I am on record as having indicated that our president is short of qualified, good friends who can do the work that needs to be done for government.
Oh, friends, not people.
Friends, people. Let's call them friends for now, but people. If you look at your circle, you should be able to find some qualified people to appoint. I mean, look at the level of people that were appointed by Kibaki. Even the former President Uhuru appointed some quality people in government. There is nothing wrong with them appointing people, but appoint them in the spaces they are qualified for. Government is big. If someone is qualified to mop, please find a place and get them.
So there's a problem, a direct one with if I was the president, if I appoint the person who beat the drums loudest for me, who is, I don't know,
Stella.
That then is not versed in the things of education, and I gave her the position, because this is what happens, because I could be very rudimentary about it, but that's exactly what happens. That right now, unfortunately, the situation is that I appoint somebody, they go through Parliament just does the whitewash, we come up, we get the person, we go. So I give them this position as education. What you're saying is that there is a problem giving somebody the job who is unqualified in that space, even if they are my friend and they beat the drums the loudest.
I'm actually saying there is a problem giving that job to someone who's unqualified, number one. I'm saying there's something fundamentally wrong with fast-tracking the appointment just so that you can service the patronage network and ignoring the rules of the Constitution about how those kinds of appointments should be done. I am also saying when you appoint these people, one of the things that you have sacrificed on the altar of servicing those patronage networks is the services to the people. It is the integrity of that position and the fact that some of those appointments are normally for corruption purposes. If I'm going to appoint you,
she said the C word.
Well, she said it.
If I'm going to appoint you to a position, I actually want you to move certain things for me, and so I get the person who will be the most obedient.
Other interests.
Correct.
Now, the Constitution provides for one meritocracy. It does not provide for rewarding and gifting people who really campaigned for you or otherwise. Also, the Constitution is very clear that there are checks and balances. They know there's something you must meet, their qualifications, the bare minimums that you must hold for you to assume a certain position. By and large, there is also payment, because we pay these people. I say we need to stop calling them other names. These are our employees. We're giving you a job, execute, and you get paid. If you were in private sector, you would not tolerate having an employee that does not deliver on their targets, on their mandate. Why do we as Kenyans, because you mentioned something that the president's list falls short of the president falls short on friends. He qualified friends he can appoint.
But he has so many advisors.
I think the president's list of qualifications for you to be appointed falls short.
Doesn't exist.
Because there has to be a criteria that we say and we hold ourselves to, guided by the Constitution. This is our bare minimum. Because when we do this, we breed inefficiency. We breed incompetence. And we lose revenue. We waste taxes. lives are lost, because all these services that the government is supposed to make sure that we receive are public good. You're talking of roads, health, education. So it's not just a conversation about getting somebody into a position. I look at the impact that incompetence, that compromise of quality and qualification gives us as Kenyans, and the cost. How do we turn around to say that though we will politic, though we are going to an election, though people will need to be hired, we must get it right? Because again, it affects the public policy. It affects the public good. How do we turn around?
Well, I hear two things. I hear you asking whether directing a question of citizens' responsibilities and obligation to know exactly what they need to demand accountability from the governments of the day. And I agree that you're looking at, and here I think the conversation could be that we are looking at national government, even county governments, because we probably have more problems also in county governments, with regards to appointing, very covert missions that are done in county governments with appointing and rewardees. Well, I think we bequeath ourselves with a constitution. Ideally, we had a constitution that really spells out on how every leader should be given responsibility, how they are sent to these particular positions. And the court, equally, when there is a petition that are brought before the courts, one of the things they look at is those appointments vis-a-vis the courts, because the constitution, the laws, and they pronounce themselves on that. Majorly always looking at Article 10 of the Constitution, Article 47 of the Constitution, 232 on appointments of public service. But again, the judiciary has been doing a lot of work in terms of, just saying this is illegal, and you go back and reconsider that position. You call about separation of powers. What has the executive been doing? The executive had been, the major contributor to this. And we are talking about the executive, we are talking about the presidency. For example, I need to understand as a citizen, why does the president have how many advisors so far? And what they're advising, what their advisory docket that they're advising. Number two, in terms of placement of appointments, and Stella just mentioned, I think is one of you probably who mentioned Aseto, about the Ministry of Health. I don't think it's only the Ministry of Health. There is a number of irregular appointments across the ministry. If we had to vet these ministries, then you'll find that the cabinet secretaries, whose positions are cabinet secretaries, normally they say that probably we are not. One of the things I've heard, realistically speaking, in political circle is that a cabinet secretary is just a representative. That whoever is in charge of a ministry is a principal secretary.
They run the thing.
They run the thing. So for them, their main appointing persons, their main strong persons are always the PS. They're saying that this is a person that probably is in charge of the ministry. Cabinet secretaries come and go. Another argument that I've had, probably in the political circle, is that once a cabinet secretary is given a position, he or she has a list of advisors, all right? He or she has a list of researchers, as a list of legal advisors and, in all fields. And therefore, by any nature, these particular individuals are able to perform because there are people around them who tells them how to do their work. So this has been an argument that has been there. Now, what you're saying is, does the citizens know exactly how to call for accountability in this process?
It's
which I think is a very complicated process, because it's a political process, and the conversation right there, it's at a level where citizens could probably think that, this is an issue out of our hands. And probably the courts are the ones that are able to probably spell themselves, or litigants or civil society that has to go and question. So the place of a citizen, the place of a voter, the place of, any one of us would probably look towards the judiciary in filing these petitions, probably in a protest that led to the dissolution of entire cabinet in June 2024, or towards certain processes that would call for accountability in these.
You look at let's compare public and private sector, right? If it's in the private sector, and I'm gonna throw it back to individuals who are in office today. These individuals run businesses out here. And in the businesses that they do run, they do not just go around picking anyone. They will look at your CV and whether you're qualified to run those positions. We're talking about individuals who are serving in public office, including the president himself, his private businesses. It is not just people who shouted most that he appoints in those businesses. There are people who have the mettle to run those businesses. You know what I mean? But still, when it comes to public sector, is where we can throw any Tom, Dick and Harry to sit there because for some weird reason, we are rewarding. What loss does Mwananchi get when such happens?
I'm going to answer your question, Dennis, about the loss that Mwananchi gets, but I need to throw a spanner in the works around the question that Kamanya has asked. And Orogu has mentioned that there are political considerations in making these appointments. One of the things you must know is that political appointees are normally being rewarded for an excellent job on the political front. They're being rewarded for being excellent mobilizers, being the person who holds forth on the ground, being the person who makes the candidate look like they have support in certain areas. So you have a CS for health because he makes the president look like he has support from Northeastern Province, and that he's able to mobilize a certain constituency in this country to vote for the president. The problem that this particular president has, that we discussed extensively when he was busy picking everyone and putting them on his train as he was campaigning, is that he had too many people that he was working with in order to get into office. It becomes easier when you have a few people and there are people that you choose. When you don't have people and you have to pick anybody and anyone to legitimize yourself, one of the troubles that you're going to have is having people that are waiting for appointments anywhere because they need to reward themselves. You will be pleased to know that some of them are appointed in those positions because they need to recoup investments that they made into the campaigns. So balancing the political dynamic and the public interest dynamic is a bit complex, but it's something that must be done by every government official. Which brings me to what Dennis has said. These are businessmen. In their businesses, they promote the people who are qualified for the assignment that they're qualified for. So even if you're promoting a political mobilizer who is great at speaking in proverbs and shaking her hands and shaking her waist or twerking or whatever it is that the qualification is, while you're promoting them, at least check to confirm that they are qualified for what you're promoting them for. If you're going to promote them and you have not checked what they're qualified for, ask yourself the question that Dennis is asking us here. What is going to be the cost to the citizens? How sensitive is the sector you're sending them to? Are they able to discharge their duties, or they're just going to be sitting in the room, filling up space and not adding value to the conversation? Sometimes they may be extremely qualified for the assignment because they went to school for it, but then they have no ideas on how to improve the services in that space. I'm talking Ministry of Education, though, that you have people who are extremely qualified, actually two consecutively, and they do nothing useful for the education sector. And then you wonder, you have people like Matiang'i, who sat in that department and was able to transform things. How do you, first of all, check that people are also passionate about what you've appointed them for? How do you check for serendipity, people who will walk into those departments and do what they need to do without needing supervision from you? And people who even demonstrated during your campaign that they had great ideas. I think it is extremely, extremely foolish to pick individuals who are not qualified and insist that you're going to appoint them in positions they will do nothing for. And it is extremely costly to the citizen, because every time these kinds of appointments are quashed, money has been lost. They've earned from those positions. Certain decisions that she has made have not been quashed. Justice Momwe said it would be unreasonable to quash some of the decisions she's made. So if some of those decisions are wrong, I haven't been able to vet them, so I wouldn't be here to indict her. It basically means we have to stand with them. If they're going to cost us, Kenyans will pay.
Okay, so we're going to do, just looking at that, and we're continuing our conversation because these things are important. And some of the things that rose, or rather brought rise to this particular conversation, are the happenings of this week, whereby there was a crisis, and the question was, the people in these positions, what are they actually going to do about it? So whether that speaks to competence or not is something totally different. We're going to do something a little bit different now. The president is addressing the nation, so we're going to take a few minutes to hear what it is that he has to say. I'm going to patch into that, and we'll come back in just a minute. Don't go away.
Reduced by 19 shillings and 67 cents diesel reduced by Kenya shillings 40.25 per litre, and kerosene was reduced by Kenya shillings 115 per litre. Similarly, during the May-June 2026 pricing cycle, the government utilized another 7.7 billion for stabilization and forwent 8 billion shillings in VAT revenue. In total, during the current cycle, the government has spent 15.72 billion on stabilization for this month of May-June. As a result, super petrol prices were reduced by 15.87 shillings per litre, diesel reduced by 44.89 shillings per litre, and kerosene reduced by 78 shillings per litre. Just for context, without government intervention during this cycle, super petrol would today have retailed at Kenya shillings 230 shillings per litre instead of the 214. Diesel would be retailing at 277.75 shillings per litre instead of the current 232.86 shillings per litre. And kerosene would have retailed at 270 shillings per litre instead of the current 191 shillings per litre. Taken together, across April, May, and May-June 2026 pricing cycles, the government has spent a total of 28.19 billion on fuel price support through direct stabilization measures and tax relief interventions. These interventions have protected millions of Kenyans from even more severe economic hardship. I have further directed, after consultations with the leaders present here from the transport sector, and we had many hours of consultations with them yesterday, I have directed that in the pricing cycle, next pricing cycle, we are going to further reduce the price of diesel by a further 10 shillings for the June-July cycle to help stabilize pump prices and provide additional relief to consumers. Thirdly, through the government-to-government fuel supply framework, we have secured guaranteed fuel supplies despite global supply chain disruptions, ensuring uninterrupted fuel supply availability across the country. The arrangement has stabilized fuel pricing compared to the old spot market system, where prices fluctuated sharply every month. Before the G2G arrangement was introduced in 2023, oil importers faced intense pressure to secure US dollars within short timelines, driving rapid depreciation of the Kenya shilling and threatening fuel supply stability. By easing pressure on foreign exchange demand and ensuring predictable supply terms, the framework has protected the economy during the crisis as the one we have now. Without it, the country's situation, I tell you, would be much worse. And I want you people to talk to oil marketers. They will explain to you the kind of situation that was there in 2022 when we had a crisis like the one we have. Without a guaranteed supply, without the framework we have built, there would be a major crisis of foreign currency, and there would be a major crisis of supply. The G2G arrangement has guaranteed supply, even when we have disruptions, and has also made it possible for us to pay on terms that does not put pressure on our dollar reserves. I know there are those who are trying to turn this global crisis into politics. People seeking to exploit public pain for political gain, making reckless claims and pretending there are easy options. But leadership requires honesty, not political opportunism or playing populist politics. The reality is that no country can completely escape the global oil shock of this magnitude. Even advanced economies with far greater financial resources than Kenya are facing similar challenges. There are those asking government to remove all taxes and levies on fuel immediately. But we must ask ourselves honestly, if we stop collecting these revenues entirely, what public services shall we stop funding? Do we go back to the spectacle of stalled road projects that had become a hallmark across our country? Do we stop the fertilizer subsidy that is enhancing food security? Do we cut the security budget that helps us secure our borders, combat criminal gangs, and protect citizens? Surely, our hospitals and schools must continue to function, and we must continue to fund them. These are not easy decisions. Leadership requires us to make responsible decisions, not only for today, but also for the long-term stability of our economy and our country. Because we do not know how long this crisis will continue, or whether prices may even rise further in the months ahead, we must act with care, responsibility, and sustainability in our mind. Fellow citizens, every nation facing this crisis is being forced to make sacrifices. Kenya too is making sacrifices, but they must be fair, responsible, and sustainable. Our responsibility as government is to solve today's problem without creating a bigger problem tomorrow. Our duty is to protect Kenyan families today while ensuring long-term stability of our economy. That is why government continues to review every possible measure to reduce pressure on citizens while safeguarding the economic stability of our country. We are engaging stakeholders across the transport sector, agriculture, industry, and business community to develop practical interventions aimed at reducing the impact on livelihoods and economic activity. This crisis is also a reminder that Kenya must never remain permanently vulnerable to external oil shocks and conflicts happening thousands of kilometers away from our borders. Therefore, the government of Kenya, working together with our East African partner states and the private sector, is determined to bring into production our oil reserves and resources in Turkana and across the East African region, alongside the development of a regional refinery to reduce our vulnerability to disruptions beyond our control. And that is why I have, in the last 6 months, engaged my colleagues in the East African region to bring all our efforts together so that we can use the resources that we have in our region to industrialize our region, but also to build the necessary resilience by having our own refinery in this region. That is work in progress, and I will be briefing the country as we move along. Equally, we are accelerating investments in renewable energy, electric mobility, modern public transport, and energy security infrastructure so that future generations of Kenyans are less exposed to global fuel instability. We must embrace electric vehicles as a first step, and the government has already ordered 3,000 electric vehicles through the Ministry of Interior for use by our security and administration officials. I am also making a declaration that the first 100,000 electric vehicles to be imported into Kenya, whether for public service or private use, will be duty-free, even as we continue to work with private sector for investors in the electric vehicle manufacturing to establish production facilities in Kenya. This is not only about overcoming the current crisis, but also about building a more self-reliant, resilient, and economically secure Kenya for generations ahead. I, however, wish to assure the country that there is no fuel shortage in Kenya. Through the government-to-government framework, under which international oil suppliers are contractually obligated to maintain consistent supply, the government is taking all necessary measures to ensure continued, uninterrupted supply and stability in the market. Fellow citizens, this situation is not permanent. We have overcome many challenges before, including droughts, floods, terrorism, and the COVID-19 pandemic, including other global shocks. Each time we prevailed because we stood together as one people. I therefore ask all Kenyans to remain calm, patient, and united. To every mother worried about tomorrow's food prices, every worker wondering how they will afford transport to work, every trader struggling to keep a small business alive, and every young person anxious about the future, I want you to know that the government of Kenya, your government, sees your struggle and stands with you. To our transport operators, drivers, and logistics workers, some of them represented by the leadership here, we hear your concerns. We respect the important role that you play in keeping our economy moving, and we will continue engaging you to find practical solutions. No Kenyan should feel abandoned at this point in time. And so, after extensive consultations with stakeholders across the transport sector, a number of critical concerns and proposals were raised regarding livelihoods, operations, and sustainability of the industry. Consequently, the government has agreed on the following measures. The Ministry of Transport will engage financial institutions and the banking sector to provide a platform for transport operators to address the financial challenges arising from the current crisis, including the possibility of temporary relief on lending terms within the sector. Many of the good people standing behind me have vehicles, transport vehicles on loan from some of the financial institutions. The government of Kenya, through the ministry, is going to engage those financial institutions so that we can seek some relief for our transport sector as we all face the crisis ahead of us. Number two, the Ministry of Transport will work together with Insurance Regulatory Authority to engage stakeholders and address concerns relating to insurance claims affecting public transport operators. There is a big issue about transport operators, despite having insurance covers for their vehicles and passengers, end up paying bills when accidents occur and insurance companies go scot-free. This is a concern we must address so that an insurance cover has to mean something when it is paid for by our transporters. I have further directed that an immediate review of both the Insurance Act and the Auctioneers Act be undertaken to conclude within the next 3 months in order to establish a more responsive and fair framework for players within the sector. The Ministry of Transport, through the National Transport and Safety Authority, will engage transport network companies and drivers operating under the digital taxi platforms with a view to immediately implementing regulations on a minimum taxi fare and resolving the long-running disputes affecting the ride-hailing sector. The people in that space sometimes work for 16 hours to be able to make ends meet. There is need for urgent regulations that have already been developed, and I have instructed the ministry to work with the stakeholders to make sure that those regulations are implemented so that we can streamline the whole digital taxi platform. Recognizing the important role of creativity and self-expression within our transport culture, I have also directed the NTSA to facilitate an enabling environment for matatu operators to continue utilizing artwork and graffiti on their vehicles in a manner that upholds safety and respect for other road users. The industry is telling me that they have been told they must remove all graffiti from their matatus. And I'm asking myself why. The government will continue engaging stakeholders across the transport sector to develop practical and sustainable solutions that protect livelihoods and support economic activity. I therefore ask all Kenyans to remain calm, patient, and united. Let us reject division, fear, and misinformation. While every citizen has a right to express their concerns, collectively, we must reject hooliganism and all forms of violence that lead to the loss of lives, property, disrupting livelihoods, and undermining our economy. Let us use fuel responsibly, support one another, and protect our economy during this period. We will continue keeping the nation informed and doing everything possible to protect Kenyan families, businesses, and jobs. We must confront this challenge in the same spirit of unity, resilience, and national resolve that has carried Kenya through difficult moments before. Ladies and gentlemen, I know together, united, we shall overcome. May God bless you, and may God bless the Republic of Kenya. Asanteni sana. Naamini taarifa hiyo niliyotoa kwa niaba ya serikali baada ya mazungumzo na hawa viongozi wa sekta yetu ya uchukuzi ama transport. Tumefanya mkutano jana jioni wa muda na tumekubaliana ya kwamba mahali tulipo leo kama taifa ni sote sisi tu.
All right. It's 3 minutes to 9 o'clock, and we're back into the Situation Room this morning after having assessed the situation in Mombasa, where the president is informing the nation about the I wanted to say proceeds from the meeting, Freudian slip, about the happenings after the meeting that they had with the transport sector stakeholders yesterday on the fuel crisis. Now, you've listened to this press briefing that has been given. I don't know if you heard anything about the fuel crisis, but okay. We're going to continue in our conversation. Stella and Daniel are still here. And let's take 1 minute to tell us, first of all, what you've heard. And then we're going to come back after 9 o'clock and continue this conversation. Stella, what did you hear?
I don't know whether I want to talk about what I heard or I want to talk about the fact that, one, I am not united with the president on what he's saying we should be united about. I am not united with him on the assignment of bullying Kenyans into spending some more of money that they don't have, number one. I am not united with the president on making recommendations about things that have got nothing to do with fuel, talking about insurance and banks being lenient on loans. You know, something very strange happened on the screen and I was laughing during the break because on the ribbon there I saw an announcement that gonorrhea and syphilis have hit a record high in Europe. And I was thinking to myself, this is actually mirroring what he is doing. He's talking about things that have got nothing to do with the fuel crisis. He has spent a lot of time mentioning a lot of numbers. These days I'm allergic to the president mentioning any numbers and billion next to it. And so the truth is I've not listened to any of those numbers that he was mentioning. Number two, I've heard him saying that they have put in measures, they made subsidies and everything. Those subsidies are not enough. He has mentioned reserves that I know this country does not have. Fuel reserves we don't have. We have been told we'll get fuel in time. So when we are told we will get fuel in time, it means there's nothing else that is in here. We're waiting for that one that will come in time. And so for me, I've just had a president who's telling us, tighten your belts.
Nothing is changing?
Nothing is about to change.
Okay. So, Tuesday, we were told, Daniel, that in 7 days we were going to do something. And people told that, interestingly enough, the gentlemen behind him were the ones who let us know that come Tuesday, we are going to insist that this comes down, otherwise we'll go back on strike. Maybe that has changed?
And with all due respect. Well, I haven't seen this gentleman there. And it could be quite interesting to see exactly what he would have said. I don't know why. Are we trying to see him in the press? Not there.
He's not there.
Not there. Now, I was seated expecting that I hear what the president might have said on fuel reduction.
Yep.
Absolutely. And maybe there was a leeway of hope when there were rumors going around that the industry representatives are called in Mombasa. And now I can really confirm they were actually summoned. And, you know, something might have been read to them. And they were told that this is what is going to, probably not even told what they're going to read. You see faces, how they are reacting to this news. And I don't know what they are saying probably. Now, I hear several things. Tighten your belts. There is no change. Nothing to do with fuel reduction, like Stella said. Instead, there are issues to do with about insurances and the banks and, you know, and all these credit companies. So I think, I don't know whether, do we have a listening president?
No.
This is now my question.
Okay.
Have we learned from experience? Do we know what is coming ahead of us? So even as seated here talking about representation, what did the transport sector actually represent in this meeting?
That's a good question, and perhaps we can mull over that a little bit. Let's take a break and listen to the news. We'll come back and probably patch into this press if it's still there, and then continue our conversation. It's a different kind of Friday. Of course, with this, we'll continue with that conversation when we come back from this. Don't go away.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the news. I'm Sheila Tembor. Former Chief Justice and presidential aspirant David Maraga has raised concerns over the rising cost of living in the country. Speaking in Lodwar ahead of his Ukombozi rally tour scheduled for Sunday, Maraga cited high taxation and elevated fuel prices as key drivers of the economic strain facing Kenyans.
The cost of living, as I say, has been worsened by the recent increase of fuel prices. We know what is going on in the Middle East. That is not the major factor that has created a problem. The major factor is taxation. Kenya, taxation through fuel consumption is the highest And that's why the pump prices in Kenya are the highest literally on the continent of Africa. Even countries like in the country, the transporters are saying, look, we can't operate. They don't know whether to increase the costs of, so in a difficult position. If they don't increase, they will be driven out of business.
The UGM party leader also alleged corruption within government programs, pointing to SHA and the e-citizen platform as example of what he described as governance challenges affecting service delivery.
The cost of living is unbearable for Kenyans because of corruption. Corruption has been there for decades, but it has reached an all-time high under the Ruto administration. All the programs that this government has come up with are literally looting schemes. We know what is happening with SHA. We even saw the e-citizen. These are the programs. Forget about the wastage that the government is involved in.
Musa Korir, 22, from Kapsukony in Mount Elgon constituency, is continuing his 48-hour kneeling challenge aimed at promoting peace amid rising political tensions in the country. Korir began the exercise on Wednesday at 11 a.m. and is expected to conclude today at 11 a.m. He says his motivation is to advocate for peace in the region, highlight the scars of past conflict, and draw attention to youth unemployment despite educational achievements.
Kenye imenifanya nifanye challenge, nimeona mambo mengi sana huko Mount Elgon. Mzazi anaweza ngangana akufunza shule, umalize shule, lakini kupata kazi ni shida. Mzazi amengangana, amewafunza wote, lakini hana pesa ya kuajiri kazi kwa watoto wake. Na wamewafunza hao wamemaliza. Hadi sasa mimi nimeamua hapa kunil down for 48 hours, kama itawezekana, kama haitawezekana itakuwa sawa. Ikiwezekana nimalize. Mimi ningeomba serikali itanisaidia kama kuniajiri kazi ama ajiri ndugu yangu mmoja, andene huyo ndugu yangu atatuajiri hao wengine.
The chairperson of the UNESCO Youth Committee for Culture and Heritage in Kenya, Salim Kasim, has described the initiative as unique and significant, saying it is the first of its kind in the country. He noted that young people are often exploited, especially during election periods, and called on communities to uphold peace while supporting Korir to complete his challenge.
Tumeona kwamba ni jambo la msingi sana kwa sababu ndo mara ya kwanza tumeona challenge hii kijana kujituma kwa sababu ya amani, na kama youth ambao tuna advocates for peace using culture and heritage, tumefeel kama tumekuwa touch sana na kujitolea kwake kwa sababu anajaribu kuadvocate kwa amani, na amani kubwa sana ni kwamba vijana sisi ndo mara nyingi tunatumika haswa tukifikia kwa masuala ya msimu wa kura na masuala ya uchaguzi.
And that's the news. I'm Sheila Tembor.
And coming in at
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Coming in at 5 minutes after 9 o'clock, we continue our conversation this morning, of course, coming off of the heels of the presser that's been given by the president, flanked by industry stakeholders in Mombasa this morning. And we know that some of that still continues at this point where... with all of this going on, I think it leaves us in a bit of a stupor. Because then we're wondering, okay, everybody was on tenterhooks, and the thought that was, okay, well, the president has come back after his travels, and he's come back to essentially swoop in and save the situation. Maybe folks were thinking maybe another 10 shillings of a reduction.
You know,
is that what you thought, Stella, that maybe the president was going to come out and say, okay, yeah, we hear it, and we see that it's difficult, and they say, okay, well, let's see what we can do, and let's knock off another 10 shillings, but that didn't happen?
I actually wasn't thinking of 10 shillings. I was thinking of them reversing the price back to the price to what it was.
Okay.
Because he's just about to, and we've seen some of the recommendations that they're making on the finance bill for taxes. They're just about to take a lot more from Kenyans. And so a listening president, as Orogo was asking, would have then decided that, you know what, let's know what to do with this fuel situation so that the Kenyans don't have to carry this burden. Obviously, he's not paying attention to Kenyans. He's not listening to the Kenyans who are crying and saying, we can't afford, we are not eating, we are taking one meal a day. And that meal right now may not necessarily even be a quality meal. He's not listening to Kenyans. When he tells Kenyans that he sees, did he say he sees or he feels or whatever?
He says he feels and he feels your struggle.
Does he truly feel as when he's rushing through a motorcade with fuel guzzlers? Does he truly feel as when he's busy flying around everywhere, going to do all kinds of campaigns on jets? Does he feel as when he's spending the kind of money that he spends in State House on buying tea or whatever other entertainment that he wants to give to people? I think this government has refused to tighten its belt, but is boldly and consistently asking Kenyans to tighten their belts. I also believe that a listening president would have understood when the people are saying we have been quiet, we have not been protesting, and we are dying of hunger. Could you please leave us alone? At least leave us in our misery. I think this is the point where he should have told himself there's nothing more I can do to this Kenyan's pockets. But it's obvious there's something he's looking for. And I know from the way that speech has been delivered, that which he's looking for he's going to find.
Tell you what, Trevor, this is the time when I think shutting up.
That thing, you should have won the t-shirt today.
I'd rather you don't say anything at all. I'd rather you don't say anything at all, because what are we seeing? How you engage with your bank, so that usichotwe. Dawa ya deni ni kuli. We're talking about insurance, talking about accidents, so that you need to be paid off your policy and all that, right? We see your concerns. Do you understand and feel my concerns? Use petrol responsibly. A total fuel makes the car move, right? I'd rather the president should have just been quiet.
Yeah. And as you add to that, Daniel, it seems that the folks who were in this meeting, there are about 15 of them. I don't assume that they were sleeping standing up in Mombasa. I don't know when they got there or how long that they've been there, but it's on somebody's dime that they're in the county having the meeting, and they must have arrived at the very least yesterday. By the time the president was coming in, it's on somebody's dime. I don't imagine that they paid for themselves to go here.
I mean, definitely. It now confirms, that was said, it now confirms what has been going on in the public domain. The court of public opinion has given their verdict that probably money exchanged hands, and probably they might have been flown to Mombasa, and probably they might have get the best accommodation. Because you are going to meet the president, who was just flown in the country right away from an expensive jet, to Moi International Airport.
The guest of the state.
The guest of states. So, this is taxpayers' money, sorting out what is unsortable right now. But as you said, and we are talking about representation, and I see people who have deviated on their representation, what they stood for. Had you met these guys a few days ago, I don't think they would be probably clapping and smiling to every statement that is made by the president. The question is, who then did they represent? If the president that they had a meeting overnight can make a press statement and the three key first priorities has nothing at all to do with fuel reduction, but cautioning the transporters and their welfare against auctioning, then you ask, what was in the point? What was on the table of discussion? That definitely, it is definitely our welfare and our interest as business and our profit. And the president says that now go and use fuel responsibly. I was hoping that there would be a drastic reduction on fuel prices. This took the president, and I think the meeting sounded quite very urgent, that we have to wait for president to come. It was not just anyone to make a decision. Not the cabinet secretary, not the principal secretary, not even the guarantor of this conversation. Now it is the president who was to make an announcement himself. But that's why I'm saying the magnitude of this conversation and the expectation of Kenyan is just disillusioned. And like Stella said, there's trouble brewing. And I even ask, do you listen? Do you perceive? Do you see what the country was like? This is a precursor of what we're expecting, because people will throw up their hands in the air and say, now, let it be.
It's confusing. to say the least. Because as you rightly put it, I expected that we're going to have some news that would be of relief to Kenyans. Earlier in the week, we started off with protests because the matatu sector said they were not willing to hike the fares because they knew how adversely that was going to affect the wananchi. And therefore, they tried to put exact pressure on the government to manage the pump price and reduce the pain. And Kenyans stood in solidarity with them, or a huge number of Kenyans. Today, on Tuesday, we heard that their flight tickets had been booked to Mombasa and they were going to meet the president. I think the president had no business in this matter. It should have been the CS to address the subject matter, even before the president came back. We've just been talking about appointments, and people, separation of powers. I think this is a classical example on how incompetence plays out. Then the president comes and pronounces himself on the matter and he says, the status quo remains. That's all I've gotten from his statement.
Yeah.
The status quo remains. Prices will remain high. So now I want to see what the matatu sector is going to do. Are they going to continue operating with the normal bus fares? Because they have refused to exert more pressure on the government. So they should not pass on that cost to the wananchis. They should just bear the cost because they sympathize with the president and the president can hear their struggle.
But where is it going to go, Joe? Come on.
That's why I'm saying I want to see. Kenyans. Because the outright thing is that if they dare hike the bus fares, people are going to protest. The president is calling for the people to go to the streets by taking no action.
But you see, Joe, I think it's even the bigger thing here is we talk about diesel and what it does to the economy. Now think about the transporters who are going to spend more to ferry their goods. That means the cost of living products, cost of living definitely will go up. So we're not just looking at matters to do with me being able to move, but you're looking at the cost at the shelf. Everything will go up. We've not had the president address himself to the cost of living and inflation that will be there by the result of the hike of fuel.
Right.
And I don't think he's going to address himself to that because our president does not care. And there's a question that I added on to Orogo's questions during the break. Who does our president work for? He does not work for Kenyans. He easily gave up to 51% interest of the Kenya pipeline, and shamelessly told us that as Kenyans could not see the advantage that Museveni saw on the pipeline. He told us in our faces. This is a man who has proven to us that he will sell every part of this country if we allow him. If we just sit back, he will sell without conscience. Today, he's telling us that Kenyans should try and tighten their belts. We are tightening our belts so that who will benefit? It's not that we have forgotten that just the other day he told us that his cronies in the ministries of energy, EPRA and KPC were responsible for buying expensive fuel. So you fired them, or you may have actually gotten them to the ESC to investigate them, but you have not done anything to do with the fuel. It is not Kenyans' fault that we have expensive fuel. As far as we are concerned, the last time you promised us that you have gotten a deal that is going to stabilize the price of fuel. When it rises, we will still pay the same price. When it lowers, we'll still pay the same price. How is it that we find ourselves in this situation today? And you don't look troubled. As a matter of fact, when the trouble was starting, you had flown to Kazakhstan to go and do whatever it is you're going to do there, spending more of taxpayers' resources, yet Kenyans are suffering. This man does not care. Now, if matatu owners transfer that price to Kenyans, Kamanya, don't pretend on that microphone that you don't know what is going to happen. Kenyans are not going to bear it. The problem also that the president has, and this is why I said he knows what he's looking for and is going to get it. The problem he has is that matatu prices, matatu fares are going to increase. The cost of commodities, the cost of services are going to increase because everything has to follow the price of fuel. Right. And after that, his able yelling CS is going to come with the finance bill. I don't know whether he's compiling this so that he can get one big strike at once, or if he has no ability to see the cliff that he's about to jump over. I also don't know if the president truly hears when Kenyans say they are fed up. I am not going to speak for anyone outside this studio today. I am speaking for myself. I am extremely fed up of a government that does not care about its people, seems to be serving the interests of people who are outside of our jurisdiction, and continues to boldly announce to us that we need to tighten our belts. We have no more belt space, and that is why I'm telling the president I'm not united with you on this one. I am not. If you're not living the struggle that I am living, if you're not living the struggle that Kenyans are living, please don't tell us that we're united in this. Don't tell us that you feel us. You don't feel us at all. You do not. And because you don't feel us, I think one of the things that you cannot afford to do is to threaten Kenyans and tell Kenyans that you're not going to tolerate anybody who's going to engage in protest and go back to the streets. You don't dictate when Kenyans want to go to the streets. Kenyans have a constitution that allows them to go to the streets anytime they feel that there's a matter that they need to address. These matatu owners do not dictate when Kenyans need to go to the streets. Kenyans have rights. These matatu owners have rights to go to the streets. As a matter of fact, if they decide to proceed back to the streets after that press statement, there's nothing the president will do.
Today,
They've said it's
page
off.
15 of the
strike is
standard.
off.
They called it off.
They said they called it off, but if they decide to go back, there's nothing he can do. This is a right that is enshrined in
Page
the
15 of the
Constitution.
standard says one term and two term slogans mean nothing when majority of Kenyans suffer from poverty.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, everybody's making noise about one term and two term. Nobody's having conversations about this cost of living. And the truth is, the Gen Z protest in 2024 was sabotaged so that the status quo could actually come together and regain their power back over the nation. And after they've gained it, they've given us a choir that I don't know whether it's the bases that are singing two term and or vice versa. And so we are busy singing one term and two term, and nobody is talking about the damage that is being done to this nation. Or when it is spoken about, it's mentioned in passing, in a speech, and it's gone. While people are discussing what positions they should be given. I watched very closely at the funeral at Onyonka's home. A very hardworking man, and
well done, Stella.
I noted that every speaker who spoke came and said this one is coming for a certain seat. When he comes, give it to him. Now, don't get me wrong. I support Onyonka's acquisition of that seat. By the way, I think he needs to be tried for governor for that position. But for me, if you're having conversations about you people getting seats in the next election, who is having conversations about that woman that the president has mentioned that he does not feel? Because if he felt that woman today, he would have reduced the cost of fuel so that the cost of commodities do not go up. Who is talking about that woman? Are we able to have these people even doing the discussions about the seats they want to take in the boardroom, but we now start having serious conversations about the suffering of people? We cannot afford to continue running this country as if the rest of the people in this country run on fuel, and it's only the president and his team that runs on blood.
Well done. What do you see in days to come? Because I doubt the matatu sector is going to shoulder the difference between the prices of the fuel. I strongly believe they are going to pass that cost to Mwananchi. I strongly believe that the industries, because, remember, there is also a huge percentage of the fuel, diesel, petrol, that goes to industrialization, right? And also food production. So it's not just about public sector movement. It's also about driving the economy, literally. Things are going to go high or higher than they were. What do you foresee? What is the space of Kenyans now in terms of choosing to represent themselves and advocate for their rights? Because again, this is tax justice. The injustice, actually. The more you pay, the more you should receive. And there should be no taxation without representation. And this is clearly what we are seeing now. Well, what do you foresee?
Well, I think as I was concluding my remarks, I said that this is the last week's events is a precursor. It set a stage for probably what is to come. And we are a country that is highly, legit, what do we call it? People go to the street highly informed and civically aware, civically vicious. And that's why I said, do President really listen? Do he sit aside in himself and have a conversation with himself as the head of state? Look, let me assume that he might not have time to do so. Then he probably have advisors I'm just assuming. He probably have advisors who are people that are much respected in their positions of appointment. It's a conversation we are talking about right now. Let's assume that he's not listening to them. But he gets intelligence briefs every morning. Right?
Right.
Yeah. He's briefed every morning that you see the state of the nation is quite unstable. And as the nation is moving towards June and people planning to commemorate, this can sweep you under the carpet. If a president is not listening to all these structures of advice, including the conversation he had evening yesterday with these stakeholders, then I can confirm what Stella is saying, that is looking for trouble. This is a man probably that is happy when a state is sliding into anarchy because of things like this. I was just thinking, how many nations or countries have slidden into anarchy because of fuel prices? Kenya is one of them in 2026, probably in 2024, that was hidden in finance bill. His friend, Emmanuel Macron, his country, you remember the Yellow Vest movement? Was a result of fuel. Ecuador, Angola,
Comoros.
These are countries.
Venezuela, the president was abducted by another
handpicked.
state.
Was picked up, abducted by another head of state. So I am asking myself if Dr. William Ruto, who is Daktari himself, reads widely, probably consult, I'm assuming, Stella, how come you're not seeing all these things coming your way? And to what Kamanya is asking, I have seen someone is setting a stage for anarchy. And it is not opposition to blame. It is not civil society to blame. It is not Mwananchi to blame. It is where the buck stops with. Because when you are elected, you sign a social contract with citizens. And this is one of them, is to safeguard their interest, is to caution them through these economic hard times, is to look into their welfare. So for me, I see a week where this representative of transport sector have lost confidence with the public. And probably they're going to emerge new representation, a wider consultative conversation of how to deal with the executive that is not listening. And parliament as well.
Well, we did things a little bit differently this morning, of course, to take into consideration the state of, the address from the president this morning that he was addressing the country from Mombasa. We're going to come to the close of this conversation now because it's all a kind of wait and see, that we don't know what's going to happen next. Just by point of information, that nothing beyond the 10 shillings on the reduction of diesel has come about from this press that everybody was waiting for, and that the president has talked about the fact that there will be payment of insurance claims, or there will be conversations that the transport industry can have with banking institutions to maybe offer a moratorium on the loans that they have, for example. And apart from that, the calls for peace, love and unity from the president. And then the other piece of information is that the strike has been called off. Yes. That's what we've heard this morning. What will happen in the hearts and minds of Kenyans is one that we'll wait to hear. Stella Agara and Daniel Orogo, thank you very much for joining us this morning, having this conversation. A wait and see. You're not leaving with smiles as you came in, but let's see what happens as the day progresses. Asante sana. And good morning. As we continue this, we'll come back. We need to talk about Ebola. We're going to do that as we conclude with a Healthy Friday conversation. We'll do that when we come back from this break. 9:25. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Broadcasting worldwide, SpiceFM, online, mobile, and on radio. Facebook at SpiceFM KE.
So many forward here. Titles are on the line. Rivalries are at their peak. This is the final stretch, where legends rise and champions are made. From the Saudi League to the Bundesliga and La Liga. Recharge your monthly subscription today to feel the pressure, feel the passion, feel the game. Every pass, every goal, every moment matters. Don't miss a moment. Renew your subscription and stay in the game. To renew your subscription, dial *858# for self-service or get in touch with our call center on 0719 077 077 for customer care. Buy a StarTimes decoder at any of our dealer shops countrywide. Download the StarTimes On app to enjoy all your favorite shows and stream live channels on the move. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life. Sebastian Allaire!
Have Have you tuned to the best Kalenjin radio today? Berur FM is the leading Kalenjin radio station in the Rift Valley. We are current, trendy and bold. We bring you bold voices, big conversations, entertainment and blessings every day. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok and Instagram for the latest updates and vibes. And don't forget our live stream and YouTube. Berur FM, bold, factual and resonating voices.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right. This is the kind of Friday that people have written songs about. And probably there's one brewing already. So let's see what is happening as we get into the rest of the day. But one thing that we do know that's happening that got a lot of people in a state of bother, that caused a lot of deaths, not more than 10 years ago, that had the world reeling from its effects, was Ebola. There are very many caregivers that passed away. This disease found its way across the borders of many nations, and unfortunately, it's back. In Uganda and the DRC, about 139 people are said to have died from Ebola already, and this is in a short time. Yesterday, we saw the troubling pictures of people trying to claim a body that is said to have been deceased of Ebola. And so the questions in terms of border surveillance, in terms of travel surveillance, there are many questions that we ask. And so our Healthy Friday conversation today is trying to understand exactly what we're doing at the moment and what is happening with Ebola. And it seems to have grabbed the attention that was being placed on hantavirus. And so now we're saying, excuse me, this one, let's look at it a little bit closer. To enable us have this conversation this morning, is the medical director with MSF, Dr. Kalyan Vilvela, and he joins us this morning. Good morning, Daktari.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Thank you for being here this morning. Karibu sana. And of course, with this Friday, it seems that this is the Friday where we do things very differently today. So we're going to jump right into it. First of all, for our reminder, what is Ebola? We know these things: fever, joint pain, hemorrhage, etc. Almost 90%. I don't like to use the word guarantee. Maybe there's another word you'll tell us. But of death once the symptoms have progressed. What are we looking at here?
Ebola was first identified in 1976. Ebola, the name of Ebola probably would have seen comes from the river from Zaire. You know, that time formerly the Zaire and currently the DRC.
Okay.
Ebola is Ebola viral disease. It is caused, a bit of medical term here, it is caused by the genus called Ortho-Ebola virus. And it has different families, strains and species, etc. The major concerning ones are the Ebola virus, formerly called the Zaire virus, the Sudan virus, and a Bundibuji virus. Bundibuju virus, the current strain.
So the current one is the Bundibuji virus. Okay.
Yes. Which is not a very common species. Not to get confused with the strains and the species. It's a different species.
Okay.
Previously, it's not common because the outbreaks that were seen earlier, like the 2014 and 16 in West Africa and the previous ones in DRC and Uganda, were not from the Bundibujo virus.
Okay. So, it seems to come and go. Are we saying that there's just some Ebola in the atmosphere just kind of hanging around and it's waiting to be activated? Because Uganda and DRC have had a hard time with saying, okay, surveillance, and we said, find maybe one case, and then for months on end, we hear nothing. And then, we hear it again. What is the phenomenon behind this? Where is it?
The Ebola viruses, the filoviruses, are very interesting. A lot is unknown. What is known so far is within the rich animal reservoirs in the forest, there is it harbors natively in a specific type of bats.
Okay.
We don't know, due to environmental conditions, there is an exposure from that animal reservoir to the humans.
Okay.
Different reasons: climate, environmental. When humans go to the forest, insecurity could be one of the reasons. When you're hiding in the forest, you come in contact with these infectious bats. Primates are also there. And then one of the reasons is, if by chance having a contact with the body fluids of these dead animals, or when someone consumes a bushmeat, then you have the transmission. But there's a lot unknown, and we cannot fully eradicate and say that can we swipe out all the bats? No, I think it is really difficult. So there's a lot of studies going on to better understand what is happening between the outbreaks. Exactly to your question, what are those triggers that are causing, or where are the virus harboring, and how is it changing? There's a lot to be known, but what is known is, as I said, there's an animal reservoir, conditions that are conducive, then there is an interaction with the humans, and then the
transmission.
The transmission comes and the outbreak happens.
Now, so we have sounds like we have a fair understanding of the genealogy, the history, the development of the disease. And therefore my concern goes to the communities, because once there is a transmission, once somebody is infected, then the spread, as we have known, becomes very rapid with very disastrous outcome. I mean, MSF, I know they've been at the forefront of being like the rapid response teams, and they've done a great job. But I look at the measures that perhaps the communities need to be empowered with, for them to, one, detect, if not avoid, then detect, before it escalates to now a pandemic, an epidemic. From where we stand, are the communities, because there seems to be known hotspots, in a manner of speaking, where the infections happen mostly. Are the communities, in terms of world response, because COVID, the coronavirus, shut down the entire globe. So, and these viruses, the mode of transmission is very fast. So if not well managed, they could not just interfere with the normal socio-economic activities, but it's a health hazard that can easily wipe out a community dead. Do we have enough awareness at the community level to try and prevent, detect, avoid transmission or infection?
Very good question. Before I go to the details of it, I just want to highlight we should not panic. Ebola is not like COVID-19.
Okay.
It is not an airborne disease. And it's very rare that it has caused pandemic. No. Ebola is very infectious. The fatality rate is very high, the death rate. But it is not that super contagious like the COVID-19 or so. So that we have to be very clear. It's not an air to airborne. It comes with contact with the bodily fluids or contact with an infected person. That's one. And you raised a very important point. In MSF's experience, working with the authorities, the Congolese authorities and elsewhere in the world, community engagement, community participation, and community trust are paramount important. And working with them, involving them in what we do, making them understand what it is really important. And one aspect I want to highlight is, as the previous question was on, why is it coming? We cannot stop it. But surveillance, early detection, and early alert are the key aspects that have to be in place in wherever we have seen Ebola or Ebola viral diseases. That's a very key aspect.
Dr. So WHO, through the Director General Tedros Dr. has said that this is a regional emergency, not yet a global pandemic. But you look at a strain that is not common as compared to what we have experienced before. So then one would ask the question, are we approaching this the right way in terms of addressing its surveillance and also in terms of treatment? Are we able to deal with this new strain effectively?
Very good one. Yes, WHO's, according to their criteria, feels it's a public health emergency of international concern. As well as African CDC has put out their as a continental concern. We have to also understand the outbreak is happening in a context in northeastern Uganda that is very volatile. Access is very hard reaching there. It's an insecure context. There is an active conflict going on for a long while. In the recent months, the conflict has escalated. There's more than 1 million displaced people in Ituri and plus 1 million displaced in North Kivu. Infrastructure is minimal. Economic situation, we all know the situations we are in. So it's adding another layer of burden on the existing health structures. Imagining when there is a displaced population, the people working, healthcare workers are also moving.
Yes.
There is insecurity. So there are many challenges there. I think just not one. In addition to that, the virus, the species is something different from what was dealt with in the past. There were 2 previous outbreaks of the similar species. One was in Uganda, was actually from Bundibugyo district in the western Uganda that this virus came out, right, in 2007-8. And the last outbreak was in 2012 in DRC. And the authorities have worked on it, so it's not very straightforward. As you said, surveillance is important. So far, the numbers have been coming out on suspected cases, deaths, confirmed deaths versus confirmed cases. And we feel, and as well as reading from different reports, probably this is a lot under-reporting as well. One of the aspects is surveillance is challenging It's also to question when the initial cases started quite weeks earlier. We could not alert ourselves. We could not have those alerts coming sooner. So it's very important to have that early detection and alarm and alert coming in, so we are able to prepare.
You speak of underreporting because there is a possibility that the first incidents had happened weeks earlier. So I want to look at it and not also be so pessimistic, but is there a possibility that what is in the communities is far much greater than what has been reported, and that should be cause for concern?
Possible.
Okay.
We have to, that's what the challenging part is, the context, as I said, the conflict, insecurity, the terrain, the logistics aspect, and etc. And also because it's a different strain, we don't have at this point those appropriate testing kits. The testing kits that are available are in the capital are for Ebola virus, that's the Zaire virus that was previously causing outbreaks.
Oh, okay.
But the test kits for this specific species have to be adapted. And we use something called gene expert cartridges. This is like a printer, a small, and then you insert the cartridge and you have all the elements in it and it diagnoses. But for Bundibujo, it's not yet there. And the supply is also not sufficient. So when you are saying so many suspected cases, sometimes it's possible this could be malaria. This is also a malaria endemic area. If you have fever, body pains, headaches, these are the initial symptoms of Ebola. So it can be in other diseases as well.
Okay, and that was a question I wanted to ask, because as we looked through the symptoms earlier in the morning, and I said, okay, well, it's very possible that this could actually be malaria. So in terms of surveillance, and then because, you hear Ebola, you panic, and that's just a human reaction to what we've seen that this disease can actually do in terms of destruction. So then we would imagine that the testing and the surveillance then is able to distinguish between the two. At what point are we getting to when somebody's feeling symptoms that could be malaria and maybe don't feel as though they need to go into having it checked, and when we're saying this could be a little bit more serious? So when is surveillance intercepting that thought and saying, actually, no, if you feel this of this degree, then you must come in and get checked? And that time when you're feeling the symptoms, is that when we say that it is of a contagious nature?
Good one. Those are some of the challenges. Imagining even in urban settings or in countries where the healthcare is at a level, some of these symptoms mask. A malaria could be, or a typhoid or a dengue could be resembling Ebola, right? And in those remote locations, it's harder. But we know that the viral hemorrhagic fever, Ebola virus, is endemic. There are outbreaks happening. That's the key thing we need to concern, right?
Okay.
We need to consider.
Okay.
Why it's not happening elsewhere, right? It's happening in those specific spots, right? And my advice would be, do not wait. If you have those fever or headaches and symptoms, then visit the nearest health facility. So at least that is very important. Sometimes we think, as you asked, what would be that thing that distinguishes clearly?
Yes.
We call it viral hemorrhagic fever or bleeding, it's a bleeding from the nose, bleeding from the vomiting. It's not that common.
Okay.
In quite a number of cases, that's the last signs and symptoms you will have.
Okay.
So these are some of the challenges, but for in the current situation, our advice is, if you feel sick, if you have fever, and if you think if you are in contact with a sick person, because there is already an Ebola declared, please visit the nearest health facility, consult a healthcare worker who will be able to do the necessary.
Well, and I look at that, Dr. Ari, and I'm like, yes, I hear the advisory. And then it so happens that somebody in the neighborhood or in the community where there's been reported cases is feeling unwell. They go to the facility, but then the facility is under-equipped. They don't have the necessary apparatus to run exhaustive and comprehensive tests. So then one is at the mercy of the best that the facility can offer. And then I also looked at that vis-a-vis the overlapping symptoms. You have clusters of symptoms that can be shared by conditions. And we have seen also stigma, because if you know there is Ebola, and now here you start coughing, you seem to have a fever, we will respond in a certain way. That could either interfere with treatment or delay treatment or cause more harm. You have been around various countries in Africa. When you look at our health systems, are we growing to be responsive, ready? Because most of the time we are reactive, we saw the other day there's a withdrawal of the US aid, and the entire continent was in panic. They're saying that there are some conditions we will not be able to continue treating. When you look at our health systems, Kenya might be a bit far from the border of Congo and Uganda, but human movement nowadays, within 24 hours, somebody can crisscross this continent. 6 hours in one country, another 8 hours in a different country, and then you sleep in a fourth country. Therefore, transmission can be very high. And you remember there is a time there used to be this airport screening, and quarantine was very popular. So our health systems ready, according from where you stand, the point of advisory and policy influence, to develop shockers that can safeguard the public health of not just the country but the continent, because at the end of the day we are one.
No, very good one. As I said, on the health level of healthcare and all, I think it varies. I won't go much into detail.
Yeah.
Every country, every Ministry of Health trying their best to provide that access and quality care. Of course, there are definitely, we have to improve. We are not yet there, but I think those process are going on. One of, if I got you well, because you had quite a number of them, I think one of the, just want to connect is, if we see the current outbreak, as I said already, the multiplicity of issues there is also Ituri province also borders Sudan and South Sudan. And it is also a province that has a lot of mining and trade going on, and it has also insecurity. So there is, and this high number of internally displaced populations with the conflict. So this makes it even further challenging. And for us, we say, yes, those measures are there, screening at point of entry that was done, just your temperature, if you have symptoms, to separate the person. Isolation is the best, one of the best preventive measure. The other thing is, if you are coming from an Ebola confirmed, outbreak, if you have symptoms, just inform the authorities, and better to avoid travel. And what we feel is what stops, learning from the previous outbreaks, what stops Ebola is controlling at its source. We need to track the transmission chain. That's what we, MSF, WHO, and with the authorities we used to see. From that initial case to who are the contacts, and all that chain is identified. Then you are able to isolate the patients, diagnose who are confirmed cases, quarantine for 21 days suspects, and you're breaking that chain. It's very important. So surveillance, epidemiological trends, and tests to confirm are really important.
You see, Dr. Ari, many would say, rather, it has been seen as if Ebola is an African disease. Rather, it comes from the continent, right? And you've mentioned it's based off where it lives better, the forest and all that, right? And one then would ask the question, as a continent, knowing that this is a problem that primarily comes from us, are we seeing movements towards vaccination? First of all, does Ebola have vaccination? And why are we not seeing that being pushed like the BCG vaccine, where one would say the entire continent is vaccinating? Is that the way to go for us to say that we have a huge number of population, especially in areas that commonly get affected? Is that a way then in the future to say we are putting in measures of dealing with Ebola once and for all?
A very good one. I think that's the way it is. As you said, prevention, early detection, and a treatment that are specific to Ebola and viral hemorrhagic fevers, and vaccination is a key. What do we have is we have a couple of vaccines now.
Okay.
Erbivo is one of a type that was used earlier, but these vaccines are currently used for the Ebola virus, the Zaire virus that was previously coming. We are not yet sure if the existing viruses, how effectively are for the current strain, the current species. That's the thing. There are a lot of discussions. There are vaccine candidates within the pipeline. And the previous vaccines have been used as emergency clinical trial conditions. And MSF has been part of it. The last ones, even the monoclonal antibodies we call them for the treatment, were used in some of the treatment facilities. Later, we came to know their effectiveness, and later they were in the market for use. So for the specific outbreak, there are not known ones that are effective. The previous ones were tested for this species in the primates and seemed to be effective to stop the transmission. The spread for 75% or so, but we don't know. So there are a lot of discussions happening at the WHO level, a lot of actors, the manufacturers, on fast-tracking emergency use in outbreak settings. So you would have heard some discussions were there. If we start now, it might take 3 to 6 months or 9 months, but I think everyone is trying to fast-track the available promising candidates to pushing on. Your final question is, we need to push for it. I think specifically governments and ministries also from the continent, we need to push for it to have appropriate treatment and care. It's not easy. The attempts have been made, but that should continue.
And I want to look at the role of culture in vis-a-vis transmission, because it is, in the African context, it is only courteous to shake hands, just hug, meaning human contact. And you remember one of the things we did, much as you say the contrast is not as much with COVID, was one of the measures we were highly recommended to employ was social distancing. When it comes to Ebola, what are some of the do-it-yourself, for though there may not be confirmed cases, but you never know. What are some of the things we may want to start doing to be part of the, responsive, positively responding community and managing the potential pandemic? And is there a relationship, between this hantavirus and Ebola? What are we looking at?
Firstly, for as measures, as I said already, early detection of cases, isolation of the cases, and providing care is the key thing in Ebola. As you said, the prevention is general prevention measures, like maintaining a bit of distance from a sick person who, if we think is from a region that could have had a contact with Ebola also. Having a distance, maintaining it, avoid contact.
Right.
Avoid contact with bodily fluids is very important. If we have a suspicion of an animal, avoiding that contact. That's blood, secretions, organs, urine, feces, etc. The other thing is hand hygiene is very important. We touch everywhere. That's the culture, right? But I think hand washing and practices are important. Avoiding travel, when there is a confirmed outbreak, unnecessary travel is also, important. If we have a sick person in the house, it's not easy. These measures are not easy. If there is a sick person in my own relation, am I not going to take care of him or her? But those are the things: avoiding contact, visiting the nearest health facility, disclosing that the person is sick is very important. Some of the fears earlier in the communities, as you said, is before I go there very quickly, community, as I said, community engagement and gaining trust is really, really important. And interventions have changed now. When MSF, WHO and the authorities are setting up the Ebola treatment centers, take them as near to the community. Because if someone is sick, you're taking this person out of your family to a place to treat.
Yes.
And the mortality is very high. And he or she never comes back. What is the panic in the family, the worry in the family and the community? So take it there, engage them in all stages of the treatment, ensuring strict infection prevention controls. That is very important to have the safety of the healthcare workers and then the safety of the families and the patients. Very important to have appropriate IPC measures. That's paramount. So these are some of the things, and I would strongly say, my advice and, what MSF is, if you're sick, if you have fever, fatigue, malaise, headache, or vomiting and diarrhea, sore throat, please visit the health facility, and specifically in areas where there is an ongoing or a confirmed. Do not just stay home. Because, it's important to confirm the case and isolate the case.
Okay. So you mentioned, just really quickly, but you mentioned that there's a vaccine against it. So we're saying, is this a preventative measure or is it a curative one, this vaccine?
The current vaccines are not specific for this species.
Okay.
This is for the Ebola.
These are for the other ones.
There are two types. One is to prevent the spread. We used to call it a ring vaccination strategy, where you're vaccinating the contacts of the person and the healthcare workers. So you're trying to draw a circle to stop the spread. The other one is where there is no outbreak and where there is a high risk, you're vaccinating. It's as a preventive measure. Okay. But as I said, for Bundibujo, there's none.
Okay. That's clear. So then it just ups, it's the requirement for us to up our game, as it were, to make sure that we are careful. Thank you for the vital information that you've shared with us this morning. It's another situation that we watch and see, but to have this information and that we can spread it, I think is very, very important, and that we've had together this conversation. Dr. Kalyan Vela is the medical director with MSF. He's been here talking about Ebola and its surveillance. Asante sana, and of course looking forward to another conversation that we can have with you about making sure that we're careful medically. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Asante.
For everybody that was in the Situation Room this week, thank you for doing that. Another day to say thank you, and that we can continue having these conversations with you and moving the needle, even in one way, no matter how small, is important. Have a wonderful weekend, won't you? Let's talk again, God willing, Monday morning. It's 10 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Sheila Tembor. Kenyans will continue to bear a high fuel cost for several weeks before the next review. Speaking at State House in Mombasa, President William Ruto directed a review of fuel prices and announced a 10 shilling reduction to be implemented in next month's pricing cycle. He added that the government has secured more affordable fuel supplies aimed at strengthening distribution and gradually easing pump prices.
I have directed that in the pricing cycle, next pricing cycle, we are going to further reduce the price of diesel by a further 10 shillings for the June-July cycle to help stabilize pump prices and provide additional relief to consumers. Thirdly, through the government-to-government fuel supply framework,